What's
Welcome.
up? Oh, I didn't know if I was doing it or you were doing it. Take it, Lewis.
Oh, no, you go ahead. We're doing technical stuff right now, so
All
you
right,
just
fair enough. Welcome into the Monday Night Rewind, presented by Federated Auto Parts and ELH Detailing on Top Row Racing Media. Live on a Monday, having a little bit of technical issues behind the scenes, so Lewis dealing with that. On the other side, I'm Buju, host of the Monday Night Rewind, the Thursday Night Throttle, the Buju Bullring Chronicles. But yeah, welcome into the Monday Night Rewind. As I said, Lewis dealing with a little bit of an issue behind the scenes with one of our guests, so slow start to the show here, awkward start to the show, but welcome into Monday. I know it's not the greatest start for you, Lewis, but otherwise.
we're working on getting Wayne in. I just got his phone number. For some reason, StreamYard is not letting him do anything. So it's fine. It's a Monday. Who cares? We roll with the punches. So we'll be giving Wayne a call here in just a little bit from Hartford. So you'll hear his voice. You won't get to see him because it's not doing anything for him, but you'll get to hear his voice. So definitely share this out because he is a legendary announcer, has been all over the place. So we haven't had to phone anybody in, so we'll see how all of this works. But anyways, we will be flexible because that's sometimes the nature of the beast. And then Taylor Haines will be joining us at about 7:40. And obviously, if you go to Russell's M40 Speedway, you definitely see him on Saturday nights. He has quite the story to tell where not only is he super educated just from an academic standpoint, but he also does coaching and bowling and has worked with professionals and all these kinds of things. So he has a pretty cool story to tell. And so today we have two guests. I did try to work on a third guest, but there's a iRacing thing that goes on Mondays that keeps people busy. So a couple of people that I asked apparently are doing that. So they're not available. So I thought, well, there's one other who I did talk to, Dalton Irish, that he wasn't available tonight, but he is available next week. So nice. When Dalton couldn't do it, then I tried to scramble for a few others, but there's an iRacing thing going on. So since they're doing iRacing stuff, that's where I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. It's all fine. It's fine. Yeah. I'm just super tired. It's fine.
long day at Slinger yesterday, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, Sabrina, in fairness, Sabrina did have the longer day because she had to leave Augusta, about an hour and a half before getting to me, where I am in Michigan. And then from here, we left my house about 10 and went, filled up, got all the things, and then stopped at Quick Trip as soon as we got into the Wisconsin border, as I said, as advertised. But getting there actually wasn't too awful, not as much road rage. In fact, there's more on the way back, because one thing that irritates the crap out of me is, okay, so have you ever been on the Illinois toll road before?
Yep.
So we're on 294. There's 4 lanes. So coming home at night, almost always, anytime I've come home from Wisconsin, it's like wide open. I mean, we had like 7 or 8 different sports cars speed by us doing 100 plus miles per hour, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'll talk about the high speed chase that ended just behind Slinger as we were getting ready to leave.
Oh, yeah, I saw your post.
Sirens, all these things going on. And then someone had a scanner because they're from Wisconsin.
Right.
They said, oh, yeah, there's a high speed police chase that just ended. They put the strips out, like the spike strips, and cars 100 feet off. They're in it. When we went by, there looks like some innocent cars got collected too. And but cop squad cars all over, literally behind the track. So I'm like, high speed chase. Who would have known in Wisconsin? But anyway, so, Illinois toll road wide open. I mean, I usually cruise in the second lane, then there's 2 on this side. We're going along, not to look like Chris Farley from Tommy Boy, right? But going along, all of a sudden there's this car here and there's others. I mean, traffic is picking up a little bit, right? So I'm now over in the 4th lane. And there's this car just riding along. Just riding along. And then they wait until I'm basically right there to then move over, even though they had time to move over. And Brandon's like, oh, it's coming out now. And I went, I was born in Chicago. I can do the Chicago drive. I know how to do the Chicago drive. I can do all this, right? I mean, I did 4 lanes, a 4-lane switch on our way there. And in one swoop, right? I mean, I can do that, right? But I don't have to in Michigan. I don't need that skill set in Michigan except for Detroit area, you know, where you got to do that kind of stuff. But I'm like, you know, this is just not a thing. And so there's actually more rage on the way home than there was on the way there. But yeah, it was a pretty cool day at Slinger being there. It was nice to see some people from the year before that we got to touch base with, including their media team. I got to touch base with them again, and they were super friendly as always. The staff was super friendly. I shadowed Drew Jack. He did some race directing, and I asked others like, hey, I want to learn how to do this, you know, because I know tracks get short staffed, and it's like, if I can have one more skill set or one more something that I can put in my back pocket, that in a case of emergency, pinch hitter or whatever, you know, that, hey, like, he knows enough to do it or to get through it or can figure it out. And so I got to do that, but then I ended up helping with lineups and other things going on. So that's where I'm like, I went from kind of working, you know, as media to doing way more, and which is fine. You know, I enjoyed it.
And that's racetrack life.
Yeah, no, like I said, I enjoyed it. It was, you know, I got to help cars line up. I don't know that I did good or bad or indifferent, but you know, nobody crashed in the pit area. Everybody got out into the track. So if anything, it worked.
That's right. A for effort.
You know, but it was, I mean, we're getting ready to go. And because I know at that time it was like, they finished early. They finished before 10 o'clock their time. So it was 11 o'clock our time. They finished before that. But I couldn't pick up my brownie sheet from Quick Trip until 10:30. And so it's like, okay, we had a little time to kill. And it's okay if we would have, because I would have gotten something to eat or whatever. But then as the one race is finishing, their Slinger Bs, all of a sudden you hear just bonkers lights, sirens, fire trucks, all these things. And next thing, I'm like, okay, are they coming to the track? What's going on? What's happening? Like, did I miss something in the process of walking around? You know, was there an accident? Because, you know, people were leaving the track, all these things. Nope. High-speed chase ended right behind the track because Slinger is at the top of a hill, and then there's a tree line, and then there's a steep hill, and then Highway 41 is right there. And so you couldn't see the lights or sirens in the air. You know, it's not like it was thick or anything to see that, or cloudy where you'd be able to see like the flashing. But it's like you looked at the road maps and see all the red. You're like, it's literally right behind us through this pit area. So I don't think that person would have made it up the hill. It's a pretty steep hill, but I was like, do we need to be, when someone with the scanner, like, oh, and now they're at gunpoint stuff. I'm like, do we kind of need to be mindful? Because open. I mean, but it's like, again, they would have had a steep hill to climb up.
That
I don't think they would have made it with. I think there was 9 squad cars. So I don't know. If one person outmaneuvers 9 squad cars, then I don't know. Right. Like, as most Wisconsin, you know, state troopers ride with 2. So it's like, I mean, that's like at least 8. You would think if they all had 2, that's 18 state troopers to however many people in the car. I mean, it can happen. OJ did it, but still. But that's kind of for show. I think that's more for ratings than anything.
I don't think the Wisconsin State Troopers would have handled that quite the same as Los Angeles did.
No Culvers for you. Come back 1 year. You know, no beer, no brats, no anything. You know, because I mean, like I said, steep hill, but it was pretty interesting. But again, we got home, so we got back here at 3:20, and then Sabrina still had another hour, 10-20 minute drive home. So, you know, she had the longer day out of all of us. But other than that, if you want to talk a little bit about your weekend, because you're at M40, I'm going to mute myself and give Wayne a call just to make sure. But again, just so everyone knows, to start the show, we were having technical difficulties in that it's not letting Wayne in. So you're going to hear his voice. But you won't get to see him. So we haven't had to do this. 23 episodes. We haven't had to do this. So we're going to figure it out and go with the flow. So I'm going to mute myself. You talk a little bit. You'll probably see my lips and all that moving on this side, but you won't hear me.
All right. So I'm in charge now with Monday Night Rewind. But no, I spent my Saturday at the Russell's M40 Speedway, and I don't know if you've seen over social media over the last few days since that feature at M4 since that night at M40. But that Judgment Day Street Stock feature is something that you need to go back and watch if you haven't seen it yet. Logan Maynard and Brock Gaines put on one hell of a race for the top spot in that Judgment Day feature. And I mean, shout out to the rest of the field. There was all heavy hitters, top to bottom, and it was great racing throughout the field. Nick Stremme told me after that he's never had to race so hard at the back in his life. But Logan and Brock really put on a great, respectful race at the front. It was aggressive, but nobody wrecked each other when they very much had the opportunity to do so. So if you have not seen that feature at M40 from Saturday, go back and watch that. As far as the rest of the night goes, another great car count and another great fan count at M40. Looks like we got everything set with our guests here. So, yeah, great night at M40, man. We'll talk more about that later after our guests here, but we'll throw it back over to Lewis, who has our guest now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I let Wayne know that we bring him in about it because you were talking about M40, so let him know that you're talking about the race because I heard how exciting it was, but
Awesome.
I didn't get to see it. I wasn't there or anything, but that's where, I was at New Paris and they did the Enduro.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty. I called you, Jack, right away, and I said, we need an Enduro at New Paris. And I'd already talked to Chris about it. I said, do you guys have, would you ever do another Enduro? Because they did, 3 was wide open or backstretch wide open, 3 and 4 turns, but then you did like an immediate left turn into the infield there and then back out. And I kind of call it like a Pac-Man face,
Yeah.
And I said that was fun, and so it slows down just a little bit and everything. But
I was very curious how that went. So
yeah, it was, 451 laps. So,
insane.
on Thursday when I said it's probably going to be more, right? And Tracy was surprised because Tracy thought less, right? That's what she said on the stream, is that she thought, well, it'll probably be less because they did 375 last year. And in my head, I'm calculating, right? So they were laying down, the faster cars were laying down 20-second laps, 21-second laps. And so Spencer Wardinger, Troy Williams, and Chris Fleming were the winning team. And obviously weekly racers, they know what they're doing. They're behind cars. But Felicity, or no, not, is it Felicity? Oh, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Felicity. Felicity, Tabby, and Megan Richardson, they took second, and they hung with everybody. But Warninger and team, they had 21 laps by the end of it on top of everyone. So, they had to do pit changes because they had changed drivers. So next year, they're going to change the format a little bit. It sounds like they're going to go down to 2 drivers rather than 3. Because there's obviously people, because smart people do smart things, right? And like, oh, there's only 11 cars. Well, there's 33 drivers, right? So when when you have 33 drivers, it may not look like that when you have 11 cars, but everybody had to get a half hour in. Next year, they're thinking do 2 per car. So that way some of these drivers who we had on teams and have cars instead, right?
So we're up to 14, 15, just based on this year, but
but it was more than last year, right? So it increased. It was entertaining. There was 5 red flags total, but they were like wonky red flags. They weren't
nasty stuff,
crazy nasty stuff. And so we did have 1 flip. I missed it. I heard it, but I missed it. One of the rum runner cars hit the infield tire just right and like did a barrel roll.
Oh man.
They have it on their TV cameras downstairs, but up top I was following this way, and then I heard it and I'm like, what did I miss? So I don't know how it happened, but hopefully next year more and more come out. Chris Fleming, as part of his interview, or was it Troy, one of them said that they would do this again, that they absolutely loved it, that it was super fun.
I saw, was it Spencer that was talking about how it was on E for the last 45 minutes or whatever it was?
So that's where you kind of think like they held back a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, okay, they got to 451 laps holding back for about the last 45 minutes. And there's long stretches. It's loading on YouTube now. There's long stretches. Like one of the stretches was 57 minutes, just green. And so you're kind of thinking, okay, the last 45 minutes or so, if they're kind of coasting and they're just, even when they put a couple gallons and it did like nothing, it's like, could we have gotten close to 500 laps? Right. If they're putting 22nd lap down each time, or at least 475. I mean, we would have definitely got up there. So if you think about it, I mean, that's definitely the longest enduro I've seen.
Yeah.
Drew Jack usually does, 200 or 150 laps or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Even if it's a 2-hour timed one, I don't think it's been like a crazy number in that 2-hour time.
Yeah.
And with New Paris, red flags didn't count as part of that. So, but even the red flags, we started the race at about 5:15 or so. We because they had to do transponder stuff and it wasn't picking up on some of them. My race pass had an outage, anyways. I mean, all over my race pass had an outage. There are a lot of tracks complaining about it on some of the forums, and so they had an outage already. Right. So, then they worked through that. So it was about 5:15 and we were done by 8:30. So I put us at 9. I thought an hour for red flags. I mean, typical enduro stuff, right? So if you start right on time at 5 and you end right at time at 8, but you have red flags or whatever, you're going to be closer to 9. But we were done by 8:30. So, I mean, the red flags added maybe 15 minutes or so. And the one red flag, the last one that they did, a driver's door was kind of exposed, but they're in the infield and it's kind of one of those Tracy felt like,
better be safe than sorry.
That one, it was when someone tried to go Babe Ruth and didn't do Babe Ruth at the beginning of his career, did Babe Ruth at the end of his career when it was a swing and a miss. So and time to put him out on the farm, right? So so it was kind of one of those. I mean, that video is online, and so they called red flag for that, but probably didn't have to be one.
Yeah.
You understand why? Because again, driver door was facing, and you never know, right? So but other than that, so I know that's where I was, but I know we do have Wayne on. So again, I want to remind everybody that StreamYard for some reason was not working for him. Couldn't get past any screen or whatever. So he's on my phone. So I called him and we will be pulling him in because again, he has quite the story to tell. Obviously the announcer over at Hartford Speedway right now, but Wayne, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can, Louis.
And Buju, can you hear Wayne?
Yep.
All right. So again, Wayne, welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. I know this is the first time we've had to do a phone in, but at least we can hear you. So we'll let you know if anyone has questions in the chat area. So we'll pass those on to you. But other than that, Wayne, one thing that I always like to start off with I call it the softball question of the night, because this is a shoot first, aim second show. Like we don't have a script. We don't follow anything. We just kind of go wherever the conversation goes.
Okay.
But my one question I always like to start off with, just so people who don't go to Gill or Hartford may not know you, but you've announced at a lot of places. So why don't you give us your background, how you got into racing, when you started going to races, how you found a microphone in your hand, to now you're one of the legendary announcers in this area.
Okay. Well, I started working at a racetrack at Hartford Speedway when I was 14 years old. And I had worked there up till I was 16. And Mick Schuler, the late Mick Schuler, who announced for many years at Kalamazoo Speedway, I kept pestering him when I was 16. I'd make out the payoff sheet for the drivers that night, what they'd get paid and so forth. And I kept pestering Mick. I said, I want to announce. And he said, come on up to Kalamazoo and I'll let you do some qualifying and a couple of heat races. And I went up there and it was on a Sunday and Pat Beebe was there from the old Mark time, the late Pat Beebe. And she came up there and she was really impressed right off the bat. And then I got on at Hartford. Mick left me one Sunday afternoon. He had to go to Kalamazoo. And it was like a 100 lap late model program at Hartford. And Mick says, okay, it's all yours. I got to go to Kalamazoo. And I got on the mic and the first thing I said was, blah, 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 blah. I was 16 years old. And Mick had me up to Kalamazoo. I became his announcer when I was like 18 or 19. I think he was promoting the track with Phil Perk at the time. And then I went over to Galesburg Speedway the year after that. Charlie Keckler was the track manager. Bill Mariolny owned the track. And that was back in like the early 80s. And that was when Randy Sweet had the rocket car, the world famous rocket car with the big billboard on the side.
Yep.
And he turned like a 13.02 lap. And I was announcing there then. And they had a lot of 100 or 50 lap specials paying $1,000 to win, which drew a lot of the Kalamazoo cars, it was pretty much open competition rules. And they would draw like Bob Holly, Mike Van Sparentak, Gene Edding, Dick Barker, and a lot of drivers from the east side of the state. And I could go on. Am I going to rambling too much for you?
Oh, no, you keep going. It's your time.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Well, I wound up getting back announcing at Southwest Michigan Speedway in Montville. That was in the 80s, from like 84 to 90. Ralph McLaughlin owned the track. And they were running late model sportsmen. And Andy Bozell and Bob Robleski had some classic battles back then. And they did have an outlaw super late model show when Denny Nyari was there, Larry Zent, Chuck Silva from Detroit. And then I proceeded to go, I think, back to Galesburg. Warnings were owned both Butler and Galesburg, and they were running Butler on Friday nights and Galesburg on Saturday nights. And I wound up with a stint at Kalamazoo Speedway again. Back about 15 years ago, I can remember interviewing Scott Bloomquist at the Kalamazoo Clash, interviewing Johnny Benson Jr., who I had a photo taken with his dad, Johnny Benson Sr., who was legend at Berlin Raceway, one of the all-time winners. And anyway, so I've announced for about 4 different owners at Hartford. The Knight family, Jim Borden, now Tim and Leah Dibble. And I've been there for the last 13 years with the same ownership with the Dibble family. So, and I've traveled around to a lot of different racetracks. I've been to Daytona, Pocono, MIS, I think one other NASCAR track. I've been to the Milwaukee Mile for the old ASA Badgerland 150 races. I was there one time when Bob Seneker won that race. And he was actually probably my favorite driver growing up. I just watched him, how smooth he was. And he wound up winning like 6 dry power 400s in a row down at Winchester, Indiana Speedway. One of my favorite tracks, as dangerous as it is. So anyhow, that's part of it.
So when you have, I mean, we've had Will Greenwell on the show, who's an announcer all over. We've had Joel from Kalamazoo, Jeremy Wardinger from down in New Paris. We've had Frank Gasco on from M40. So we've gotten a lot of announcers on from almost every track. For you, you have such a legendary career where you've done so much for so long. And so this one, you might have to jog a little bit or it might come right to you. What's one of the top moments in your career, whether it was from, a young age watching racing that got you hooked in, or as an announcer where you're like, man, that was fun. And that's something I'm going to remember forever. And it could be multiple moments. It doesn't have to be just one moment, but what stands out to you within your racing career behind the mic and even as a fan?
Well, at Hartford, we have a tradition that we try to get down and try and interview every feature winner. And when I was back announcing at Galesburg, like back in the 80s, I think it was, NASCAR had been in MIS that day. And Charlie Keckler said, I've got somebody for you to interview. It was Neil Bonnet, the late Neil Bonnet, who lost his life in 93, I think, at Daytona. But he had raced at MIS that day. And he was there, I think, picking up some parts from Randy Sweet. And he came up there and I interviewed him. And that was probably one of the top on the list for me. And I also introduced interviewed Casey Kane when he was with the All-Star Circuit of Champions Sprint Car Series, which is at Hartford on the 31st of this month, a week from Friday. But that was when Casey Kane, he was famous, but he hadn't even cracked into NASCAR yet. This is like in 2002. And Casey Kane was at Hartford, All-Star Circuit Champion show, and he demolished the field. He won by like half a lap. And I remember, I've got a picture of that. interviewing him. I also interviewed Craig Kinzer, Steve Kinzer's son, when the Gum Out Series was at Hartford back in the early 2000s. Working with Rick Ferkel in the tower at Hartford. He was the race director for the Gum Out Series, and he was a legendary racer. He drove the Zero car, and he raced World of Outlaws for many years and All-Star Circuit Champions races. Just getting back, for me, Lewis, it's the people aspect of it. To be able to go up to somebody like Danny Smith, used to be from Chillicothe, Ohio. He had a hometown named after him, Danville, Indiana. And just to be able to go back in the pits, and Danny would come up for an open comp show at Hartford, and just to be able to talk with him and to meet the people, and even people like Kurt Spalding, and go back in the pits. I know them personally. To be able to talk to Tyler and his son, who they're both exemplary drivers in their own right. And, being able to go down in the pits and talk with Jeff Gannis at Kalamazoo, it's just fun. They'll recognize you. And I know one story I had back when I was announcing at Kalamazoo in the old Trisac Super Modified days. This was when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And I went down to Sandusky, Ohio. They were running like Hartford on Friday night, Sandusky on Saturday, and they were going to go to Kalamazoo on Sunday. And I went up to this guy. I was going to sign in at the pit booth. And he says, "I thought you were coming down here." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." And he says, "I'm Dean Best." And Dean Best was one of the top sprint car drivers in Trisac, and he was from Ohio. He drove modifieds, pavement modifieds for a long time. But that's pretty cool to a young 18-year-old kid when a Dean Best recognizes you, who you are. So that was cool.
Well, and that's where Tina Lewis, as you're talking and you're telling your stories and things that stood out, even again, and her, question is that most memorable race. So you've talked about a lot of names, you've talked a lot of people, but is there, even with all those names and all those moments and all those things, is there a race that when you're up in the top, right, and you're calling whatever track that may be, where you're like, that's what stands out, or moments that stand out, whether it's a first win for you where you're like, man, I've called this guy's races for 15 years and they've been chasing the checkered flags all that time and they finally got one and they've been so close for so long, or whatever it might be. So that's what Tina Lewis is wondering, is your most memorable race that you've announced.
One that I think stands out was a Kalamazoo Clash about 15 or 20 years ago. And it got rained out on Wednesday. They have the Kalamazoo Clash midweek on Wednesday. And bad storms went through and it knocked out they've got the big tower on the back straightaway at Kalamazoo. And they ran the race. The rain date was the next night on Thursday. And I didn't have the advantage of having the tower back there. So I was just relying on how much I knew and not really having a scorer beside me, because I was on the top side and they had the scores down the middle. But I had to tell the people I just tried to keep them abreast of who the top 10 were, and because they didn't have the scoreboard. And the next day in the Kalamazoo Gazette, Pam Shebest, who used to cover racing for the Kalamazoo Gazette, she said, "Announcer Wayne Bunn kept the people informed with who was running in the top 10 because the scoreboard tower went out." So that was one that kind of sticks out for me. There's a lot of them. I was born out in New York State, and I've been out to Orange County Fair Speedway in Middletown, New York. I was born in Middletown, and I've been back many times for like the Eastern States 200, the big block modifieds with like Jimmy Horton, Brett Hearn, Bobby Botcher, Bob Malzahn, and they'd start like 60 cars on a 5/8 mile dirt track with big block engines. So that was quite a rush. But Kenny Brightbill, he had won at Middletown, and there was just a lot of nostalgia there. So,
Buju, did you have a question? I saw you were moving up towards the mic.
I was curious who Wayne looks up to as influences from an announcing standpoint, who he looks up to, and maybe who he styles himself after or fashions himself after.
Well, Mick Schuler got me started, and I tried to almost pick up his voice inflections and stuff like that. I
Right.
think I eventually finally developed my own style. But there's a lot of good announcers around here. You know, Jason Seltzer's done a good job. And he worked with Rob Goodman down at Kokomo. Rob was an excellent announcer. He was just a real race savvy person, because if you could hear him talk at one of his drivers' meeting, they were serious when they run a great, it's probably the best non-wing sprint program in the country down at Kokomo. And Rob was a big influence with that. But I know Jason went down there and announced for several years. Mick Schuler, the late Chris Economaki, who was on
Absolutely.
CBS, editor of the National Speed Sport News. Dick Berggren, who was the editor of the Stock Car Racing magazine.
Yeah.
He wasn't really, he was an announcer, but he was more of a color guy on.
Right.
Yes. But one thing that if I had to pass out advice to anybody that wants to announce, is that Dick Berggren wrote in his column one time, any announcer that's worth the salt needs to spend at least an hour to 2 hours in the pits before the races, because those drivers have a lot of good stories. You know, I can go around before a GLSS show at Hartford and go up to Dustin Daggett. Yeah, we won at Merritt last week, you know, and I'll bring that with me. If you have stories you can tell, yeah, your winner at Merritt Speedway last week, Dustin Daggett, you know, and that's, people eat that crap up, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate as somebody who's dipping his toe into the announcing side of things. I appreciate that little bit of advice. So I'll remember that.
Sure.
And then one last question for me. All the racing you've seen over the years, obviously you've seen arguably the best years of short track racing in your time at the racetrack. So if you could go back and watch one race at one track with one person, what are you watching? Where are you watching it? And who are you watching it with?
That's a good question. Go with me all the time to the races, and then we got married. Things change, but anyway, my favorite race would probably be the Winchester 400 down at Winchester.
Sure.
Probably to watch it with my wife. Doesn't really go to the races that much, although she does work one of the concession stands on the Nights of Destruction nights at Hartford on the East End. Pam is her name. God bless her.
God bless Pam.
I'd probably like to watch it with my brother, because he's as much of a motorhead as I am. And I'd probably just like to watch it from the highest row in the grandstand, because that's a death-defying racetrack. You got to be real brave. You know, sure. Carson Hocevar is the big deal in NASCAR now, and I went down to the Winchester 400 about 5 years ago, and Carson won the Winchester 400 that day, and he led 385 of the 400 laps. And Drew Jack went with me down there to watch it, and I told him, I said, yeah, I think Carson's ready for NASCAR after that. And that was back in the 90s too. Jeff Gordon, I watched him win both the USAC Sprint and Midget features in the same day at Winchester. And then I was telling the people there, the next year, I don't know if you remember him in the Baby Ruth #1 car in the Busch National Series. Yeah, that he had won at Winchester, and then the next year he was running in the Busch Grand National Series, the Baby Ruth #1 car.
So Wayne, for you as an announcer, you know, we've asked a couple announcers a similar question. You know, what's the one thing about your job, that role, whatever you want to call it, you know, your passion that you get to bring each, you know, time you're on the mic? You know, what's something that you wish maybe fans understood that's like difficult or can be challenging that, you know, sometimes fans might be like, man, this announcer is this or this announcer is that, you know, and what do you know, what's something that you hear all the time where you're like, man, I just wish fans understood like what you have to manage or what, you know, what part of it can be difficult?
The big thing going back to when I was like 16, it was basically stage fright at the beginning. But now, like, let's say we have a Night of Destruction race at Hartford and there's 4,000 people in the stands. That does not make me nervous. I had speech class in high school, and I was able, when I was a freshman, I was able to get up in front of the class and deliver speeches. So I've never been afraid to be on the mic, maybe a little bit nervous in my younger years. And then my biggest fear probably would be of making a mistake as far as actual information. I don't want to give the wrong information out there, you know, like sponsors or hometowns or whatever. So I know sponsorship is a big thing. You know, you want to try and get the sponsors out as much as you can. The drivers enjoy hearing it, and the sponsors are in the stands too. It gives you something to talk about, you know, so I don't know if I answered the question or not.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Yeah, no, we've asked that to a couple because like Will Greenwald talked about like the downtime, right? And obviously like when you think of a Night of Destruction, you know, you have downtime, and Hartford's pretty good about managing the downtime, but it's still like there's things you have to do where nowadays, you know, maybe back in the day you could tell a story or you could do this or you could do that or whatever, where nowadays people aren't entertained maybe by that kind of stuff, right? And so you know, you kind of have to keep changing. And so kind of think about it this way to dovetail off of that question is, you know, what's the biggest thing for you in your time as announcing? What's like the biggest thing that has changed when it comes to when you first started announcing to today in 2026?
Well, it used to be that a legal pad and a couple of pens, you could write down all your information and just have it right in front of you. But now, Zach Heiser from GLSS, so he's another good announcer too, by the way. I'll put him on the list, Zach Heiser. But he's got a laptop computer in front of him, and he's got the scoring monitor right in front of him. They do a good job with that. But it's probably the advent of technology, computers, more so than anything. I've always said my own computer was up here in my head, my brain. That's what I kind of relied on. And they'll put a laptop in front of me like at a GLSS show, and sometimes I won't look down at it very much, but sometimes it'll keep you informed on who the top 10 are and what lap and stuff like that. So I would say technology and computers is probably the biggest advent of that as far as like transponders. It used to be all hand scoring, you know, especially like at Galesburg, but now they have the transponder scoring. That never used to be around, you know, but it is now at every track pretty much.
Yeah, if you're hand scoring, you know, things hit the fan. So. And they've had to. I mean, it does happen where, you know, things go down and all that, and you have to figure it out because you have a show to run. But, you know, Buju kind of asked you, you know, what it's like being an announcer and you know, some of the things that you might say to those who are doing it. And so, you know, to kind of end that, if someone asks you now, let's say someone from 2026 goes all the way back to your youth and says, Wayne, Little Wayne, whatever you want to call yourself back then, you know, Little Wayne, you know, you're going to be an announcer someday and you're going to be considered one of the best to do it in short track racing, Midwest short track racing. What would your youthful Wayne self think or feel about that as you're sitting at the racetrack watching the races?
Well, when I first started announcing, I never thought I would be announcing as long as I have. I started when I was 16, and I'm 65 now. And the math is different. I've been announcing for like 40 some years, but in 6 different decades, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020. So I think that's a pretty significant accomplishment. Not to brag or anything, but that's a long time. You know, I've seen a lot of different stuff, but tracks get paved and the pavement ripped off them and turn it to a dirt track. And a lot of the old racers are gone now. Guys like Denny Nyari and I can't think of a lot of them right off the top of my head right now, but Tom Martin, who used to race at Kalamazoo number 30, he passed away a few years ago. We lost Bobby Galloway. I worked with Bobby Galloway. He was a flagman, colorful. He kind of was under the tutelage of Larry Hottram at Hartford and Kalamazoo. And they wore the bright, gaudy outfits like purple pants, purple shirt, or pink and pink. And Bobby just passed away a couple months ago. He was a good friend. So, like I said, Lewis, is the people aspect of it for me, though. Now more than ever, you know, it's just to meet. There's a lot of cool people in racing. I'll say that. So.
Well, and speaking of one of the cool people, I know you haven't met this. You probably haven't met this person yet, but Benny Miller. He's part of Motorhead Miller Mafia Racing. They race at Springport when Springport's open, so they'll probably be returning back next year to Springport. And in the meantime, they're at Corgan Oil, and they've done Owasso. They're working on trying to get a race down at New Paris and other things. So they're short track racers who are definitely giving back. They have $1,000 to win, B features, you know, for the front wheel drives just to give them a big feel. And one of the questions he has that relates to this is, you know, over the years, what is the biggest, you know, or what are the biggest changes that you have seen in that time frame?
Probably realistically the amount of money that it costs to go racing. I think that might be why that's hurting the car counts. A lot of tracks are struggling. And I think the money that even to get in, and you know, everybody's on their phone anymore. If I look down from, you know, if there's nothing going on, you know, a lot of people are on their phones, but a lot of people have a lot of choices when it comes to going to the races, how they're going to spend their money. I think there could be something to be said for how these tracks schedule their big races. You know, why is it that sometimes Kalamazoo is going to have a $7,500 to win Outlaw Super Late Model show, and Hartford has their biggest fireworks show of the night on the same night? It seems like with a little creativity during the winter months, the tracks could get together and maybe work that stuff out a little more, I think. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people echo those kind of things. And sometimes you might even hear tracks say, man, we just need to work together. But then you're like, but you're part of the reason that nobody's working together. You know, like it's kind of one of those, like, you know, you're the, you know, and I'm not saying any specific track that, you know, I get to connect with a lot of promoters and owners.
Well, I probably shouldn't have, but
you didn't say specific. I mean, you gave a specific example, but you weren't, you know, you weren't going after a track. You're just saying like,
no.
Hey, like Hartford has this, you know.
I want all the tracks to do well.
But I think that's the thing, right? Like sometimes, you know, there are tracks in northern Indiana where one will purposely counter schedule another just to do it because they can, and it, you know, then ultimately both tracks hurt, right? You know, and it's on purpose. I mean, they can say whatever they want, but we all know it's on purpose, and so you know, that's just history, and so it's one of those things that, you know, you're like, you know, if a track has a schedule out in October and then you purposely do stuff on specific dates, it's like, yeah, you're just doing that to hurt for whatever reason it is. And you know, obviously in Michigan, there's so many choices, right? And so it's hard to get everyone's big schedule, but obviously, you know, like last weekend, M40, you know, had their big street stock race, right? Their Judgment Day race. And so a lot of other tracks, they didn't really have a big race, but sometimes you will see, you know, 2, 3, 4 big races on the same day within an hour and a half of each other. And I know for fans, they get frustrated with that, right? And that's not, again,
it seems like there's a lot of Saturday night tracks. I like Berlin. I like going to Berlin when I can. I may or may not go to that. They've got that one on August 12th. $40,000 to win for the Battle of Berlin 250. I like big races like that, but talk about Saturdays. Butler, my brother went down there Saturday with his daughter, and they had a $5,000 to win sprint show, and he said it was really good. They had UMP modifieds with them. They had street stocks, which are kind of almost down there like late model sportsmen, and they had the 4-cylinders too. But then Jones, I'm a senior citizen, and I live about 18 miles from Jones, so I may go to Jones just because I can get in for $7.
Yeah.
But I know that Galesburg races on Saturday. They have a pretty good show. But I also look at car counts because they do put them videos on there, the YouTube videos, and like, not trying to pick on them, but when a limited late model big race comes out onto the track, I'm counting cars as they're videotaping the race. And it's like, I'm counting 2, 4, 6, 7. Is that all? But you could have the same problem to be said at Galesburg too. But I've counted them before. Well, they had 13, so everybody's fighting it for the top class because you have to spend more money to go fast,
Yeah, but I think that's where a lot of times we've talked about that with front wheel drives. There was it Buju and I talking about it, or maybe someone else, but I think it was one of our Monday Night Rewinds. We were talking with a front wheel drive racer, and there was a front wheel drive at that time listed for 50,000, like 50,000 for sale. And what's funny is that if you went to my race pass, you're like, that car hasn't won anything anywhere, and as a $50,000 essentially outlaw front wheel drive, and it's like 50,000
wow
for a front wheel drive. And it was,
they hadn't won.
it didn't win, at least according to my race pass, didn't win anywhere. That doesn't mean that they didn't do a race monitor track and win, but at least on my race pass for 3 years, that driver hadn't done anything. And it's like, okay. And they raced a lot. I mean, the one season was like 30 races raced with that car. And so, cause they said they had it for a couple of years, but 50,000, you're like, I didn't even make that as a teacher. So yeah. I'm like, I a $50,000 front wheel drive car. That's not late model. That's not street stock. That's not, you would expect that for like maybe a street stock or late model, somewhat competitive, but front wheel drive outlaw.
Crazy. The 4-cylinder class came in as another way to get people into racing. And it's been probably 15 years now that they've been full-fledged outlaw cyber stocks or whatever you want to call them. But there's a lot of guys spending a lot of money on those cars, but it's also brought more talent. Those guys don't want to be in those cars forever. They might move up to I was just thinking of Josh Van Dusen, who's used to run street stocks at Galesburg, and now I see he's got a late model sportsman. The 42 car, what's it, Pierman?
Yep.
Jerry Pierman?
Yep.
He's really developed. Nice guy too, super nice guy. But he started out like in a street stock basically, and then moved up, and now he's tearing them up in the outlaw limited late models at both Kalamazoo and Galesburg. So
yeah, I'm a big Jerry Pierman fan. That's where watching him from Springport, that's where I got to meet him for the first time, and watching him develop from that, multi-time champion in the street stocks, multi-time champion now in the sportsman late models, and then he moved up to limited this year, and it was bumpy start, but he's been on a pretty good run, and I think he has the points lead right now over at Galesburg, like a comfortable points lead. And so, so to see him doing that and doing really well again, he's a driver that sometimes at Springport, and I'll kind of lead this into a question. So, Springport got knocked a lot by a lot of people, and that's when I was there, and some of our classes didn't have a strong, what you would consider like a strong car count. And we'd get knocked for it. And I would always tell people, but I'll put these cars up against any car. And just like I'd put their program up against any program. And, because Donnie Ritter does a really, great job. He's been able to resurrect a lot of tracks, to, I wouldn't call him glory days, but he's certainly made a huge impact. I mean, I think he's underrated by a lot of people. And, but it's like, you might say, well, well, there's only, 6 or 7 of those Sportsman late models. Anybody can win that. And it's like, okay, but he just won at Kalamazoo too. And he beat Billy Shannon and Kenny Head and Buddy Head and Jeff Gannis. And like, he just beat all these cars that with 24 of them on the track. So, sometimes it's like, and we've kind of talked about this, Buju and I, where I'm more of a quality versus quantity, but I know sometimes you look at the quantity, and that matters too. But it's like, I don't know. I've seen a couple of Springport people go around and whip some people. So, and they maybe didn't have a lot of what people would see as a lot of competition, but they have that quality to them where they are stiff competition themselves. So sometimes the competition is in their own seat, not so much who's on the track with them.
Yeah.
So for you, you mentioned some names already. What are who are drivers that you've watched in your time? I mean, you mentioned Carson Hocevar, you mentioned Jeff Gordon. Who are some drivers that you've gotten a chance, even at Hartford specifically, or it could be anywhere, Montville, wherever, where you said that's next level talent, where when you just watched them, you knew like they're going to go do something?
Probably Casey Kane when he won that All-Star show at Hartford. I've got Matt Frazier popping into my head. I can remember how he had a modest start to his career. He was running like late model sportsman at Kalamazoo, and he ran into a guy one night, and the other guy got a spot back, and Matt had to go to the rear or something. And we had a good talk afterwards. I said, just let this be a learning experience. But you can say, I don't know if Matt's really in the superstar status. He's a good racer, but I mean, he has had some good finishes with the Reveal the Hammer. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
The Outlaw Super Late Model Series. But Phil Bozell, he's a good one. Not have a lot of names popping into my head right now all of a sudden. So.
Well, that's okay. But that's where I thought I would ask, like, who are, because again, you've been doing it for so long. And so that's where it's like, you've had a chance to see Hartford and a lot of different versions of itself, from, new grandstands to different surfaces to, all the different sizes, obviously, which is, we're just not going to go there. Cause I know Leah's watching and I don't want to mention her most favorite phrase ever, but, Terry
Seneker Jr.
Oh, yeah.
And Steve Needles, they've won a lot of races with the Super Outlaw late models too. Talk about guys that have won races. How about this Tim DeVos from Berlin Raceway? You've probably heard of him, haven't you?
Yep.
He's 70 years old now, and just when they had the Reveal the Hammer Outlaw late models there, he set a new track record at 70 years old. Wow. And he's also the all-time winningest driver at Berlin ever for features, all classes combined. So I'd say that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's not too bad. Well, I always tell people I went to school with Steve Needles, so I knew Steve Needles before he was super famous in the late models and all that. Like I remember walking the hallways with him. So he was the class before me. But we were both athletes. We were both in the same spots of the school at times. So I definitely knew who he was. And I was a Hartford fan at the time. So we were going and watching Jimmy Jackson and J.R. Hotovy and, all those drivers, back in those days in the early 2000s. But it's like, I tell people, I'm like, I went to school with Steve Needles. We walked the same hallways, within the same 3 out of the 4 years. So, because he graduated 1 year before me, but yeah, so that, that's pretty cool to see everything that he's doing, because again, sometimes when you look back, you're like, would we have known, right? That's why I wanted to ask you the question, like if someone from now went all the way back then and said, Little Wayne, whatever you want to call yourself back then as a kid, youth Wayne, you're going to be an announcer someday and you're going to be considered one of the best around. What do you think about that? And so, because sometimes it's nice to think back. We all started as race fans at some point, right? So it's like, as you're watching, what hooked you at that moment in time? And so that's why when I asked that is like, if anyone went back and told me that, I'd be doing media and doing all these things when I'm sitting at Santa Fe Speedway, watching Tony Izzo and all them do their things and loving those cars, it's like, I don't know what I would think, right? I used to, I always tell people, I'm like, I used to be a Jeff Gordon fan, which I know is tough to, claim nowadays, but, I used to be a Jeff Gordon fan, driving or, thinking, man, it'd be fun to win the Daytona 500 someday and all these things. And, you build your own racetracks in the dirt and you make your own races and you do your own all-star things. And, but it's like, what would you think about that? So that's why I wanted to ask that.
Okay, I had a thought for you.
Yeah.
One of the first years I was at Kalamazoo Speedway, they were running tri-sec super modifieds and sprints, and kind of like a late model sportsman. And that late model sportsman field that they had Mike Van Sparentak, Jeff Travis, Bob Holly, Dick and Dale Harrington, Phil Anson, Tom Martin, Bruce LaFountain, Kim Heath. They were real racers. And I tell you what, Mick just had a way of announcing the call for the super modified drivers. They sounded like super modified drivers, Oscar Fay, Ron Samelka, Dean Best. They just sounded like they were super modified and sprint car drivers to me. It was cool.
Well, and I know again that Leah was on here and she definitely sang your praise, where, you're extremely knowledgeable of all things racing. He's a very best, all capitals, best announcer. And we've been blessed to have him all 13 years with us. And obviously I know the Dibbles have been super fun to work with. Lots of people have said that. And so I know you've definitely left your footprint on short track racing. And I definitely appreciate you working through all the technical, glitches throughout the night. And, you're our first phone in. We haven't had to do that yet, right? But now at least we know it works for the just in case, you go with the flow. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, because I'm like, man, we finally got you scheduled. And it's like, I definitely don't want to have to reschedule or anything. So we made it work. And now we at least we know we have a backup plan. But that's where, again, for everything that you've done, for short track racing and your time, still counting, right? You're not hanging it up anytime soon yet, but that's definitely where I know in my time at Hartford, I've appreciated you, but I know so many fans have appreciated you and look forward to every time you get to call, a race. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh no, you're very welcome. But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And
thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And good. Do you guys race this Friday? I can't remember.
No, we don't.
No, that's because fairs. Fairs are going.
The 31st with the All-Star Circuit of Champions, sprint cars and cyber stocks. August 8th is another night of destruction, free monster truck rides. And then I think the following Friday, I think we've got GLSS one more time again.
All right. Well, I know they always put on a good show too when they're there. And
yep.
Oh boy, those World of Outlaws! I got to stand on the infield and take pictures and everything during the hot laps and qualifying. And I told people, I said that was a different experience. That was kind of like an out of body experience when you're like, I almost feeling like I'm cheating death. Like it's just going to take one thing to go wrong.
Just to watch some of the videos and hear the sound of like a guy qualifying.
Yeah.
They sound like they're in some farm field that's about a mile long.
Yeah,
it definitely doesn't sound like they're on a 3/8 mile track.
No, that was a different experience that I've never had before. I've walked the infield on non-race days, but on race days, I've never been in the infield, and I've heard so many people talk about it. So I asked Lee, I said, can I go do this one time? Like I don't need to do it all the time, but one time. And she said, sure, you go down, you just don't get hurt or anything, be smart. And but once I was down there, I talked with the track photographer too, and I said that was different. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before, and I don't know that I ever will again. But
the speed at ground level is really different, isn't it?
A
lot faster.
Yeah, it was, but it was a lot cleaner. So up top you get all the dirt. Down below you didn't get any of the dirt, at least at that time. So, but again, Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. And I know we kept you a little bit longer, but it also allowed Taylor had to go do some things really quick, and so he had to leave the stream, and now he's back. So that's where it all kind of worked out, that we had the technical glitches that all the timing just kind of worked perfect for everyone tonight. So
great.
So
we
again,
appreciate it, and so does Tim and Leah. I know that too.
Oh, absolutely. Again, thank you for everything that you do. And again, you can hear Wayne not this coming Friday, but next Friday at the Hartford Speedway, and every night at the Hartford Speedway whenever they race. And again, one of the legends in the game. So again, thank you so much, Wayne, for joining us tonight.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. So again, we've been talking with Wayne Bunn from Hartford Speedway, and now we're going to go over. Wayne did mention Russell's M40 Speedway in Jones, Michigan, and we have Taylor Haines who's going to be joining us. Again, he had a little bit of a thing that he had to go do really quick, and so we'll bring on Taylor. Taylor, usually at this time I do my top of the hour since it is 8 o'clock. So just a moment, we're watching the Monday Night Rewind presented by ELH Detailing, Federated Auto Parts, and National Compact Touring Series. And so now we're going to a track that National Compacts will be going to here in a few weeks with the Down syndrome night. So I know that's coming up, but welcome to the show, Taylor.
It's great to be here. You know, I don't have social media all that much, but I hear these are really successful. So I'm glad you guys were able to find a slot for me.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that when Buju and I, really started this. I mean, Drew, Jack, and I were the first couple episodes, and we brought Buju on. I don't know that, through episode 23, we would have thought where we would have been. But what's so great about, and Buju said this, and I said this, the Monday Night Rewinds, is that we bring a lot of people on who, more than likely, we could put pretty good money on it. More than likely, wouldn't be on other podcasts for one reason or another. And so we really pride ourselves on that it's not just superstars and all stars and all the big names that you're going to hear all the time anyways, that, we brought on different series that are kind of small. We brought on different staff members. We brought on some different, we had a 2-hour Night of Destruction conversation that did over 6,000 views. And so talk about Night of Destruction, and so that was pretty cool and everything. So it's like, I definitely know no Night of Destruction would be on any other podcast that's on Mondays, and very rarely front wheel drives. So, but we get to have now someone like you who's behind the scenes a lot, and people may know who you are or may see you. But you would probably be, someone who would be just kind of forgotten. You're in the background, but on the Monday Night Rewind, you get to be the star now. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? And I don't know if you heard the part with Wayne, but I kind of told you this when we talked to M40, that this is a shoot first, aim second. We just, go with the flow. There's no script or anything. We go wherever the conversation goes. But I always like to start off with that of, who you are, and certainly remind everyone to share out, like, and all that to help get the podcast out there too, because that allows us to grow.
Awesome. Well, I know you guys know who I am, but for you guys that are watching, my name is Taylor Haines. I've been working for Plymouth Motor Speedway and now recently Russell's M40 Speedway. I do double duty. So Friday nights I'm at Plymouth Motor Speedway or South Bend. That's where I started. But on Saturdays, you can catch me at Russell's M40 Speedway up in Jones, Michigan. And I've been doing this is my 11th season. So I started out at South Bend as a gate worker, working the back gate, checking bags as a security guard. And then, a couple quick seasons later, Vern Sauer gave me the opportunity to work on track crew. And then ever since then, I've been with the Sauer management family. Even when they proceeded to buy Plymouth, I proceeded to do double duty for South Bend and for Plymouth for that one season where they were trying to do both tracks. And then the Russells bought M40, and originally they ran on Sundays. Well, I'm like, you know what? I'm already doing Plymouth on some nights. I'm doing South Bend on the other nights. Let's go do something on Sunday. So I went and I got in with the Russells family. And since then, they have also presented me with a whole bunch of opportunities to where I can help make a difference in short track racing.
Well, that's one thing that you talk about all the time. I know when, you and I've had a chance to have a lot of different conversations. I know you and Buju have. And so why don't you talk a little bit about even what got you into short track racing? Like, when did all this start? Like, kind of go back to your roots. So, like, how do you even end up at the track where you're being security? So, like, kind of go back to when did you really start getting into racing?
So a lot of people, this is going to be a shock for a lot of people if some people don't know. I don't know if you guys know. I know Blue Jew might know. Anyway, so what got me into short track racing was it's no secret. Everybody sneaks into New Paris. Let's be honest. So whether it's in the trunk of a car or under a blanket or in the back of the van. So my grandfather, kind of throwing him under the bus, for you guys that don't know, my grandpa is Buford Haines. He had a Dodge truck with a whole bunch of decals on it from head to toe.
Oh yeah.
The running rumor at South Bend was that the stickers, the decals, was what was holding it together, which is probably true. But my grandfather would babysit me on the weekends, and so he would take me into the racetracks, mainly New Paris because I got in free. But I would go to New Paris, and I never was at the playground. I mean, sure, I may have snuck away every now and then when I seen some friends, but I was sitting there. I was watching racing. I was watching Lou and Cindy Strimmy racing. I was watching, oh God, I mean, everybody. I mean, Rich Bowl. I had the chance to meet David Strimmy. I see Dylan quite often, but I've gotten the chance to meet and watch David Strimmy race. It was just, that's where it all started, was sneaking into New Paris when I was a young kid, watching some Saturday night racing. And then a couple years later down the road, I just became 15 years old, and my grandpa looks at me, and he was working at South Bend as a gate worker. He would watch, Buju, you know South Bend, and so do you, Lewis. All the cars would come in the one gate. And so my grandfather made sure to check everybody's wristbands. Well, at some point, South Bend needed some more help. Grandpa asked me if I could do it, and I said, yeah, let's go. So he introduced me to Vern Sauer. Vern Sauer ended up hiring me on as a security guard. And then that's where I got introduced to Tony Eldridge. And then Tony, Kevin, Vern, everybody was my boss. I was the rookie. I mean, I just did what I had to do. And then that's where it all started. My grandpa got me a job at South Bend, and the rest is history.
I actually did not know that Buford was your grandfather. I did not know that. So that was,
a lot of people every weekend find out.
Yeah. I mean, but he used to work security too. So that kind of makes sense, right? Like, I mean, knowing what he used to do and walking around and everything. I mean, he was always friendly to anybody that he walked by and all that, right? And so, so yeah, I did not know that. That's when you said Buford. I'm like, oh, that's why he's at M40 now. All these things. So is he sneaking you into M40 now? Or
no, God, no. Oh, God, no. I sneak myself in. I actually end up volunteering. No, I'm joking. No, good Lord, he's gonna hate me for that if he's watching.
I don't think there's anybody that's ever watched the show or been on the show that probably doesn't have a sneaking into New Paris story at some point in their life.
Always.
Mom or dad, get under the blanket.
I'll never forget. I begged my a little off topic about sneaking in. I begged my grandpa to take me to the Summer Sizzler, and he was like a little hesitant and was, I don't know. This is a big show. Like, this is going to be a big risk. I said, come on, I got to see super late models. All right, fine. He threw me in the bed of his van. He's like, all right, be quiet. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to be quiet. And I was chilling. We got there early because Grandpa loves being one of the first fans, which sucked when you were sneaking in and it was like 85 degrees out and you have no AC. So I was just sweating like crazy in this trunk, and God, I hope nobody turns me in for CPS or anything. Oh God. But I'm just sitting there.
I don't know that it would go anywhere now, but
yeah, I'm 26 now, so yeah, we're good. But yeah, no, he finally, after enough persistentness, my grandpa finally got me in to watch my first Summer Sizzler, which was 2008. 2008 was my first Summer Sizzler. Couldn't tell you who won because about halfway through the race, I ended up knocking out. I went to sleep. I was exhausted, but I had a bunch of fun that day.
You sweated a lot in the van before the races started.
I actually did take a nap in the van. That's the funny thing. That's what was my downfall. But yes, my grandfather is Buford Haines, if you don't know him. And he is the reason why I love short track racing.
All right, there you go. Well, since not to do cheap plug time, but usually on Mondays we do a Mick Foley Mankind cheap plug time. And since you brought up the Summer Sizzler, I figured this is a good time to say limited late models might be added to the Summer Sizzler. I can't give all the details on how that impacts the Great Lakes Truck Tour that was on the schedule, but I'll let people figure out that. But it would be 10,000 or 10,000. That's not the number.
So settle down, Lewis.
Might mess that up.
Chris just jumped out of a chair somewhere.
Yeah. But, Tracy's gonna hunt me down, but that's what's gonna happen, right? But 1,075 to win, plus they get a full case of bacon and a grill to go with the bacon. So
good.
it would be 275 to start if they add limited late models. So if you know any limited late model racers that might be looking to be part of the Sizzler, because it's the 25th one, you just never know when it's the last one.
Right.
They might wanna. Oh yeah, see, Tracy already said hunt me down. So 25, like I said, you just never know when it might be the last one that limited late models added to this. I obviously know you're at Russell's, and so I'm kind of stealing that because I know they race limiteds too. But I figure, you talked about the Sizzler and you're talking about sneaking into new pairs, so it almost kind of feels like this is a give back in a way, right? Like but yeah, so I forgot to mention that earlier because we had all the technical difficulties. That's what I was going to do at the top of the show before we brought on Wayne. But having the phone and do all the things and trying to get it all figured out threw me off, where I even realized just now my banner's not running at the bottom. So I am very poor at management today, but and production. So I should be fired. Boujou can just take over the show the whole way. But nothing has gone on time yet today. So yeah, whatever. But anyways, one of the things that definitely stands out about you, Taylor, and I know you don't have social media, but you heard through the grapevine that you had that driver spotlight, short track spotlight come through. And I know Jason Felcher said it too, and I definitely want to give your due diligence on this and shout you out, is you get stuff done. And so how is it that just in life, because if you want to peel the onion back a little bit and just say all the things that you're managing, I mean, you have a pro shop, you've coached bowling, you've done all these different things, you did college stuff. Like, how are you managing all this? If you want to peel the onion back, like what, because you're making whether it's to Plymouth or South Bend or in 40 2-3 hour drives in traffic, right? You never know, to go do what you love. So how do you manage all this? How do you do all of that?
So, to be honest, I'm a lot like my grandfather in some ways. My grandfather, before he had his accident, he was a workaholic. It's in my veins. I don't want to, waste my time. I want to make an impact in some way, whether that's in the bowling community or in the racing community. So I wake up, I take my shower, I do what I got to do in the morning, and I just start with the right foot forward. And I do my best. I mean, I try and be as honest as I possibly can be, but while being respectful. And I just do it. I can't really explain it. I live to help the short track racing community. I live to help the bowling community. And I do what I can to make an impact in anybody's life. And hopefully that's positive. So yeah, I mean, I can't really explain it. Like, I wake up and I just want to do it. I have such a strong passion for racing and for bowling and just for anything. If I commit to anything, I give it 110%. And I go out there and I do the best I possibly can. And I've had a lot of rookie moments where I've definitely learned. But then I've also had a lot of great moments where I have been fortunate enough to look back and say, oh, wow, I actually did that. That's great. Like, I would have never seen myself like that 5 years ago. So I just, to answer your full question, I really can't. I wake up and I do it. That's all I can do. And I jot notes down, I learn, and I just keep moving forward.
Well, what a lot of people may not know either. So with all this is partly where I'm going with that, right? Is that your passion for short track racing is evident. It's clear. Anyone who talks with you knows that. But there may be a lot of people watching right now who knows that it wasn't all that long ago that you were involved in a very serious accident at the racetrack that I could get hundreds of thousands of views on that has not touched the light of day, just for the respect out of everyone who's been involved in that, right? And so, you know, you went from being pinned behind a fence and thrown back at South Bend when, you know, 2 Hornet cars came crashing through the gate there, to still coming to the track. I think it was, what, 2 weeks later, you're back at the track. Maybe it was the following week, something like that, you know, and you're still at the track, still doing all these things that, even though you experienced a very tragic, you know, it wasn't tragic in that no one had passed away, but tragic in the sense that there could be PTSD of like the sound of especially a front wheel drive, you know, that gives a lot of people PTSD, but just you know, just that, you know, that just gets people going too, right? But yeah, have to be on the racetrack, just making that noise gets a lot of people frustrated. But right, you went from that where, you know, car coming close by, I mean, you're standing by cars all the time, you're flagging cars all the time, like there's probably a lot of people watching who may not even know what I'm talking about, because I'm the only one that has the video of it and it's never made it out in public.
Right. So, you know, without getting too detailed, yes, that was a scary night. Okay. I still to this day, I don't remember. So for many people that don't know, at South Bend, when it was still up and around and doing weekly racing, I was one of the gate workers. After I graduated from gate working and security and I became a part of the track crew, I would help wave the flag in turn 2's enter and exit gate for the racetrack. And so I was always right there. I helped open and close that heavy gate. But it had its pros sometimes, especially after Vern redid it. But there's not too much that I can say on that night because I don't remember it. I had a chit chat with, oh God, what was his name? Sorry, it'll probably pop in here in a second, but that whole ordeal, a couple years later, I seen you at the Summer Sizzle and I asked you if I could see it. And you were, you know, yeah, give me till the end of the night. We'll talk. Cool. At the end of the night, we were under the tower at New Paris and you showed me the video and I finally seen it and I'm like, wow, I was like 6 feet in the air and I flew back to the end of the hot shoe, which was probably a good 10, 15 feet away from where that gate was already shut. And I don't remember much from that night, but what I do remember is Michael Richardson. He was driving a street stock that season. When I finally came to, Richardson was standing over my head. And I looked at him and I said, well, what happened? And he was like, nothing. Don't worry about it. Just talk to me. And I was like, what? And he was like, no, don't move your head. Everything's good. I was like, dude, I can look around. He's like, I know, just be cool. Talk to me, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I didn't even realize my headset wasn't even nearby. Like my headset ended up falling off and without getting too detailed, you know, we had 2 Hornet cars locked together, sort of going into 2. They locked together and they lined up at that gate. And I was fortunate enough to, in the video, I was able to, it looks like I turned around at a good times. And when that gate exploded, I got launched and ended up taking a couple of barrel rolls, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know for sure because the video didn't catch that, but I'm assuming I took a couple barrel rolls, stopped at the end of the hot chute, and I was out for a minute. There was, he was hanging out in Eric Kaiser's pit because Eric Kaiser in the South Bend days, his pad was like straight off right when you exited the track. And I can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to me again. He said he thought I was dead. And as did a lot of people that were near that incident, they thought the 4 of us that got hurt, not going to mention the other 3's names, but the 4 of us that got hurt, they thought 2 of us were dead. And I was very fortunate enough to walk away from that. And then, you know, we ended up having to take a week off from racing because we couldn't get the materials. This is the story that I was told. Okay. But I don't know the exact story, but couldn't get the materials in to fix the gate, because the right side of the gate, if you're looking towards the flag stand, it was off its hinges. Like it fell on the ground. Like it was out of socket. Like that whole part of the gate was destroyed. So we took a week off to get material back. And by God, that next week, yeah, my leg was still a little taped up, but I was still there flagging and sending cars out on the track. You're going to have to put me in a grave to get me away from a racetrack. I can promise you that. But yeah, PTSD from that situation, or having any form of fear of being near the racetrack or running that gate or doing anything trackside, I don't have it, because when you love what you do, you just don't develop that type of fear. We all know. Now, granted, I've never turned a lap in my life. At South Bend, Plymouth, M40, never done it. Okay. But there was an old saying, and I think it was in the movie Days of Thunder, or maybe it was even in Talladega Nights, which isn't the best reference, but we know the risk when we strap in. And now, granted, I don't strap into a race car, but I know the risk. And I'm willing to take that risk to run a successful show and more or less make memories for not just myself, but for the fans and for the drivers and for the crews, or even photographers and safety. I mean, we have a bunch of laughs. We've had a couple of moments where, after we've dealt with some situations on track, that, you know, we cried a little bit. I know I did. But I'm still fortunate enough to be here and continue doing what I love. So yes, the gate incident, it scared me, but it didn't chase me away. And now we're good.
Well, that's why I wanted to, I kind of wanted to bring that up, just knowing your passion is that, you experienced something that.
And yeah, I mean, well, I was 6 feet to Taylor's right when it would have happened. And to be honest, I don't even remember Taylor being there when it happened, because he got flung. So he wasn't in my line of sight when I saw. I mean, it's one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. The noise is something I'll never forget. And as Taylor said, it didn't look good at the time. So, I mean, to Taylor's credit, and to, track workers' credit everywhere, and to Taylor's point that it's not just driver safety that is important. Everybody has to have their head on a swivel and realize that it's an active racetrack, and it's not just what happens between the walls and the grass that matters. Everybody's got it, and it's not anybody's fault what happened at South Bend, like Taylor said. It's not South Bend's fault. It's not the Hornet driver's fault. It's just one of those freak things that happens. But that's why everyone has to be on their toes. And yeah, just wanted to reiterate Taylor's point because I was there as well, and yeah, it was a scary time. So
yeah, but to come back and keep doing what you're doing, there are people who would have walked away at that moment in time and been just done, right? Right. Never go back, never do. And that's, everyone has a different threshold. Everyone has a different experience. Right. But that's something that, again, there's a lot of people who probably work with you nowadays who may not even know that happened, and that if you don't let it impact you, and haven't let it impact you, that you keep going on and still manage to do all these things and continue to do all that. So, I think that's something that, again, it just speaks to like who you are, and that, you just have such a love for this. And so, and I know Buju has questions. Why don't you talk a little bit about, you've gotten the flag, you've gotten to announce, you've gotten to do different things. Like, what is it ultimately in racing that you want to do?
So, I haven't really put too much thought in that. My main priority is to help benefit the track in any way I can. And so whether that's you need me in the flag stand, I was just in the flag stand at Russell's M40 2 weeks ago. Markey was able to give me his flags, and I went up there, 17 heat races, 109 cars on the property. Loved it. My forearm was a little sore by the end of the night, but I can jump in the flag stand. I've also gotten the privilege to announce. That is awesome. Oh my goodness, I love announcing. If I could do it more, Frank, if you're watching this, let me have more. But every time Seltzer comes and announces at M40, I always ask him, of course, I never want to intrude because he is the voice that night. He lets me do the prayer, which is always awesome. John Russell has been very, very patient with me and let me pick his brain for tech. So for a while, it was just me and John in tech. And then I got pulled every which direction to help benefit the show. And John's smart. I mean, John knows his way around a race car. So he was cool with being in tech by himself sometimes. But then I was able to figure out a little bit more on details on what makes a street stock, what makes a late model, Hornet, Road Warrior, depending on what class, what track you're at. We call them Road Warriors. At other tracks, they're Hornets. The Montville stocks, factory Fords, those are a lot of fun. I can do it all. And so, to answer your question, what's my end game? I would love to be a race director one day. But you know what? If that never happens, that's okay, because I am comfortable, confident, and privileged to be at any spot on the racetrack. As long as I'm there to help benefit the track, I'm down I'm down. Let's go. I'm ready. So yeah, so it's my end game, like I just said. There's really not much thought that I've put into it. I just know I want to help. And that's what I strive for every Friday and Saturday when I can come to a track, and sometimes Sunday, depends on day of reckoning and stuff.
All right, Buju, I know I was edging you a little bit there.
Is there a job you wouldn't do, Taylor? Seems like you've done a little bit of everything so far. Is there something you would say no to?
Oh God.
As far as the racetrack goes.
Yeah, as far as the racetrack goes, not really. I mean, like I said earlier, if I can benefit a track, I will do it. If you need me to be a gate worker again, because there was a couple times at South Bend where they needed somebody at the back gate for a little bit. Heck yeah, that's my roots. That's where I started. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So I would go help out there. I mean, if you need me in the concession to collect money or put mustard on a hot dog or deep fried Uncrustable, finally had one. Pretty good.
Dude, okay. Come on now.
We never would have thought that. But yeah, I mean, I literally, if you just show me a few times, not saying show me once, just show me a few times so I can get a routine. Boom, let's go. I can do anything. I mean, hell, even if John asked me to clean the bathroom, John, if you're seeing this, but if you need me to clean the bathrooms, let's go. Give me a power washer and some Dawn dish soap. That's probably not the right tools to use, but I'll get it done.
So I think you not being on social media and being in the local racing scene probably gives you a different perspective than what a lot of us have that go to the track every week. So and I don't want to say it's all negativity all the time, but there is a lot of negativity sometimes on social media in the racing world. So it's from someone who doesn't have social media and you're just at the track and you're seeing what's happening at the track. What do you feel we're doing right now instead of the other side where instead of the people who have something to complain about, what do you feel like racetracks are doing right? And specifically maybe M40 or your track. What do you feel like they're doing right now?
So, what we're doing right now that's right is we're being adults and we're talking about it. We're not going to go bash somebody. We're talking like gentlemen, whether that's in a private atmosphere or in a public atmosphere like this right here. Bringing brand awareness and positivity, I think, is going to, help bring people back to short track, because we all know, even though I don't have social media, I know there's a lot of negativity out there. I don't like Joe Blow because he spun me out 5 years ago. Going into one at, Galesburg. Okay. How does that affect us here at Russell's, or how does that affect it here at Plymouth? Get the hell over it. I'm sorry. Sure. I don't know if I can cuss.
No, you're good. You're good.
I dropped a few ones a few weeks ago. We're all I really could do that.
It's being adults. I mean, it's not having social media. When somebody brings something to my attention, I always, okay, where's your proof? Show me. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
But I need to know both sides of the story before I can do anything, whether that's making a call on the racetrack or handling something, throughout the week with, somebody had a bad experience at wherever, I need to know both sides of the story. And if we can sit down and have a reasonable conversation, that's all I can do. I mean, I love what you guys are doing. This is a positive outlook for the racing community, no matter which track you're promoting. It's yeah, even if I did have social media, I'm not going to be the first one to, go badmouth anybody. Like, I don't see the point in doing it because, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. So from someone who spent time on the fan side and now working on being the utility man on the other side of the fence now, what do you think is the biggest misconception race fans might have about working on the other side, or what happens on the other side of the fence or in the tower, or whatever it may be?
The calls. Oh my goodness. Wearing a headset all day, whether that's, we need security here, or, we're talking as a team to make a decision for something that happened on the track. In the fan side, you don't hear the radio chatter. I mean, so you can't really see our points of views. Like, I don't really want to give some examples, but like, for example, if Joe Blow spun out Timmy going into one, all right, a lot of people may say Timmy had it coming and that he deserved it and he should be at the tail. Some people should say, no, Joe Blow was in the wrong. Well, we connect as a team, whichever track I'm at, Plymouth, South Bend, M40, we talk over the radio and then we make a call as a team and then we all stand behind that call. And that's the big thing. Because I cannot tell you how many times I've ended a work night at Plymouth or M40 and, hey, what happened with that call? Well, this was our point of view and this is what we made the decision on. I see that now. Okay, cool. Or they'd be like, well, I don't think that was the right call. That's fine. That's your opinion. But you know what? There's a bunch of eyes on the track that have many different points of views. We take everybody's opinion into consideration, and then we make the call. I mean, sometimes we're in the wrong. Sometimes we make a bad call, but 90% of the time, I promise you it's going to be a good call.
I had a headset on yesterday at Slinger, and because I've been asking to learn how to be a race director too, because I'm like, and sometimes I get, a lot of, oh, yeah, and then it doesn't happen, right? And so sometimes that gets frustrating where it's like, I'm willing to learn, like I'm willing to do this. And so we had a situation at early in the national compact race that I knew from the driver's meeting what the rule was, because I always tell Drew Jack and I tell others people, I used to be the dumb fan. I used to be the one that would say they took my heat races away, all these things, where now I'm like, God help me, can we get rid of heat races? But I'm on the other side where now I get it, like, oh yeah, their junk is getting all torn up, we're wrecking stuff for $20 in heat race. Or yesterday we had a few close calls where $0 on the line and almost wrecked each other for $0.
Right.
There's a call, and so they have spinners spinning, and so I'm kind of like, well, I've always wanted to know, and this, and Drew and I were having a debriefing before we got onto the show, where I said, okay, I understand A happened that caused B. B caused C, which is what ultimately brought up caution. So I said, in that case, would you send like the one car back only because clear cut, this, although from his angle, he didn't see that. It was a flag stand call ultimately. The flag stand, the flagger had a better angle than what Drew did. And so the flag stand called it. And so I said, I understood both ways. Like, I understood why both cars went to the tail, but I'm like, at what point? And he said, sometimes that's like a gut call, right? Like, you got to kind of go with your gut. And Gary Howe used to say, if you get like 70% of your things right on a night, because you're going to sell a hot dog, you can sell 100 hot dogs, but one hot dog is going to be cold.
Right.
And he said, you're going to hear about the cold hot dog. You're not going to hear about the 99 hot dogs that you sold that were perfect, right? You're going to hear about the one out of 100. That's the one that you're going to hear about. And so I think that's something that, even having the headset on yesterday, hearing receiver, I wasn't on the other channel to hear all that chatter, but that's where, I asked him a lot of questions today and picked his brain on like different scenarios or different situations. And so I have learned so much on this side that I always tell people, until you're on that other side, it's a whole different world, right? And so, again, and I always tell people, I was the dumb race fan. I was the race fan who probably thought of a lot of things that nowadays I'm like, well, if I could go back and hit myself with this steel chair, I probably would. And because I didn't know, right? I've learned so much on this side. Purse, where all that comes from, and that sponsor money doesn't actually really like if you're a sponsor of a class, you're not covering stuff that night.
Yeah.
Like get you your first food order of the season, and that's about it. And and I think a lot of times people have a whole different philosophy of what it is, because back in the day, well, you wouldn't run a race unless you could cover the purse. Well, you need fans in the stands to help cover the purse, and Tony Eldridge always does a nice little post, usually once a year, about this is the math, people. This is why we need 1,600 fans in the stands for this race. Or if we have this race, we need 2,300 fans in the stands, or we need this many people in the pit area. And this pit, it needs to math. And that, yeah, you might get a sponsor who's like, here's $5,000, but you got all these employees to cover, you got insurance to cover. So I think that's definitely one thing that even hearing you talk about, like having a headset on calls. I mean, there's still times that I don't always understand it. And I'm right next to a race director, and I will ask, like, what did you see? Because what I saw and what they saw, even though we're in the same vantage point or close to, they might have seen the start, and I just saw the end. I saw like the second part of the initial. So that's definitely one thing that I've learned to appreciate on this side is that, when drivers will come to me, I'm like, that's one, it's above my pay grade, but two, it's like, well, this is what was seen, and this is how it was seen. And so we may not have seen you playing footsie on the back stretch. We saw you kissing on the front stretch. So, it's a little difference.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Actually, you bring up Tony Eldridge. I give a lot of props to Tony Eldridge. He put up with a lot of my dumb questions throughout the South Bend years and into the Plymouth years. But I have mad respect for him. Like, in a way, especially like if I get the chance to announce, I always try and generate my inner Tony. Because growing up as a kid and he was announcer at New Paris, he had a catchphrase, "Holy son of a monkey."
Yeah.
Love that. Still remember it to this day. Couple weeks earlier this season, I do believe, or maybe it was last year, Tony was announcing for the mini wedges at Plymouth, and his wife sent me a little video because we were just talking the day before, or maybe it was the week before, about how much positive memories of growing up and hearing that brought me joy. And I always said, if I ever get the chance to announce again and he gives me permission, I would love to say that catchphrase just one time on the mic as like a shout out to him, because he's one of the many people that helped shape me and help me become this type of person that I am for the racing community. And so if he is watching this by chance, shout out to him. Thank you for being patient with me. I mean, there were some pretty stupid questions in there, I promise. But he helped me understand. There was some moments at Plymouth or even South Bend in those earlier days where I talked a little too much on the radio. But I wanted to learn. And it was always, I finally got to the point to where I just was like, all right, let's hear them talk. Let's hear it. And then I tried quizzing myself before they make the call. I would tell myself internally, okay, this is what I seen, and to see if I was right. And sure enough, that's one of the ways how I managed to stop looking like this and started looking like this so I could see the bigger picture. Lisa Hartz, she was our race director at South Bend for a long time. And her husband, Aaron Hartz, who was a driver and also worked alongside the racetrack. She was a big help as well. She was very patient with me as well. And so shout out to both of them. And there's so many people I can name. But shout out to all those people that helped make me this person. So, yeah.
Well, Tony, one time he was doing, they were drying the track. And I said, I don't know that anyone can make track drying sound like the most exciting thing you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm sure if there was an ant race and they were racing and Tony got a chance to call it, it would probably seem like you would start cheering on one of those ants. And so, that's something that, again, I know a lot of people can say a lot of things about a lot of people, right? And
Right.
but that's one thing I always say, no matter what you think of somebody, you always got to give the respect where respect is earned. And from
Right.
flagging standpoint, announcing standpoint, promoting standpoint, there's just so many things that you can line up where you're like, you have to give props when props is due, no matter what your personal opinion of them is, because it earned that, right? And so when it comes to announcing, if there's a school of Tony Aldridge, I think a lot of people would sign up for that, right? Just like I know Buju pulls from some people from past to, the flip your bix and all the things, right? Like Wardinger do the same phrases, so you can kind of tell there's their tutelage that people they've heard announced in the past. And so I think it's one of those things that, right, like you got to give props where props is due, and that's something that obviously, I mean, I've heard some people say, oh, he's crappy at announcing. I went, on what planet are you on?
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Me and Tony Eldridge certainly had our differences, and there's things you can say about Tony if you wanted to. You could not say that man's not a great announcer, if not the best announcer. Tony's.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I don't know what you consider great then, because I need to hear that. I need to hear what your benchmark is, because again, he made track drying sound like it was the most exciting thing ever in your entire life. And so find me somebody who can do that, and then we'll talk, and so again, I know you've mentioned him as one of your mentors in the past too and everything. So so let's kind of dive into Russell's a little bit, and this is your time on Saturday. What is it there, to kind of go with Buju's question? And Buju, if you have more questions to me, just like say
good.
But I want to dive off of what you said about what are tracks doing right, because we've even said at the beginning, like, Taylor isn't on social media, so he gets to miss a lot of stuff, especially Sunday mornings. But that's something. What do you think, Russell's? What do you think the magic ingredient is there, or many magic ingredients? Because maybe there's not just one. What is it that you think is making Russell stand out so differently? And not specific tracks, others, but just in general, like, what are they doing that just seems to be hitting on all cylinders?
There's a lot. I mean, everybody's doing great things, but the big thing is, no matter who you see, whether it's John, Penny, Megan, Frank, Sarah, Drew, myself, Marky in the flag stand, we all show up. We respect one another. We respect our drivers, no matter how much they can just frustrate us sometimes. We respect them, and we kill them with kindness. Oh my goodness, we love racing. Each one of us love racing so much. I mean, Bill, he's arguably one of the most decorated short track racers in the area. And then John is a good racer himself. And then everybody has great racing experience that we look forward to showing up every week and making memories. And we try and pass on that positivity to our fans, drivers. I mean, I always said, if you see me without a smile on my face, something must have big happened. But you know what? I haven't been that person in a long time. I try and kill everybody with kindness, per se. And you could be so upset because you just, broke your front clip and you're done for the season. Hey man, let's talk. Like, we're super nice. We're doing what's right for the sport. We just try to we listen to our drivers. We listen to our fans. We try and find a compromise to meet in the middle. And I think that's that big next step. I mean, whether you're going into the tire barn to see Bill, or you're coming to see me for whatever the situation is, or you could be going up, Marky's not in the flag stand, and we're talking about rock concerts. I mean, it's a family atmosphere. And even though we're not bloodline related, they're my family. I mean, if they ask me to go on vacation with them, where are we going? Like, I'm ready. Like, let's go. It's just listening, having the respect for our fans and drivers. And the big thing is just the compromising. You know what? Yeah, you're right. Let's not do this. Let's do this, because this is going to, help benefit the business and the overall experience. So I think that's what they're doing, is just the passion and the heart. That's the big thing, is they bring a lot of heart to the table, and a lot of people respect that.
Bougie?
I guess on the lighter side of
He's
things.
close to the microphone when he has something to say. So he's getting closer. So I'm like, that's usually his tells that he gets.
Go ahead.
No, that's one of your tells is that when you get closer, I'm like, I know he wants to ask a question, so that's why I look at him, and then sometimes there's that awkward silence, and I'm not a big awkward silence person, but I always feel like there should be kind of something, even though that's not true. But I watch him, and he gets close to the mic when I know he wants to say something. So he got super close. So I'm like, I know he's ready.
I think I was just fidgeting there, but I can go. Oh, okay. If you eliminate your track, so Plymouth, South Bend, and M40, if you can go watch it, and after he answers this question, Lewis, I found a surprising fact out about Taylor on Saturday. Oh. But if you could eliminate your tracks, if you could go watch a race somewhere, where would it be?
You know, I hear Slinger's a lot of fun, but Buju, you already know what I'm going to say. I got to go to Kalamazoo.
He's never been to
a super shoot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's.
I mean, I gotta go. Like I have to go.
Plymouth's running down on Fridays, Taylor. So your time to go to Kalamazoo is coming up soon. I'll drag you up there myself if I have to. You got to get up.
Let's go. Make the trip to Portage, Indiana. I'm ready.
I'll meet you halfway, and then we'll go. How about that?
There we go.
If you're thinking super shoot, if you haven't been, Michigan Cup. Michigan Cup. Yeah, at Springport. So
yes.
So here's the way that I explain it. I lean Michigan Cup. I handle Super Shoe. Super Shoe is a party that has racing.
Okay.
Cup is racing that has family time. You know, so that's how I relate. They're both great racing, don't get me wrong, but the Super Shoe experience is almost like going to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan
been there a couple times.
Going, to the beach to watch fireworks.
Okay.
Relaxing night, watch a few things go boom in the sky, right? Like so, Michigan
have a couple drinks.
maybe I don't get hit by golf carts or see golf cart demolition derby in Michigan Cup. So I prefer the chill of Michigan Cup, but I don't mind Super Shoe. But it's a very different environment.
It is.
But the racing's great. You get, with Donnie in charge, we had the highest number last year in a long time at Super Shoe, which rivaled what Michigan Cup was doing. Michigan Cup a couple years beat everybody in the state of Michigan. Not last year. Last year was a different Michigan Cup vibe under different leadership, but this year the Ritters will have it back. And so hoping that it gets close. I mean, I think they're going to probably need another year to just really get ready. This is their first one, but if you experience Super Shoe, go try Michigan Cup 1 week later in Springport, give it a shot, and then report back.
Definitely. I do a lot of working for
Modifieds at Springport. Modifieds at Springport. That will sell the ticket alone. And Springport's like this. It's not quite slinger banking, but it's up there.
It's banked. We you talk about modifieds. I know this is a little off track, but gosh, where are the modifieds at? Like, where
Michigan.
are they? They're duh. I want to see more modified racing. Oh my god, I feel like there's really I have Flow Racing, so sometimes I watch the Wheelin' Modified Tour, and those are fun to watch.
They are.
But like, other than the Summer Sizzler, I know Angola runs them a little bit, but like, where are they? Like,
Who has 55 registered right now, if I remember correctly, which is August 8th.
Damn.
Friday, August 8th. And then they have Little Shoe, which is, if you've never raced Hot Shoe, you get to do Little Shoe, which is on Friday the 7th.
Okay.
So like if Kyle Larson showed up, Kyle Larson could race Little Shoe because he's never raced Hot Shoe. And so I'm still trying to understand it all.
This is all breaking news.
Oh, yeah, this is.
Hot Shoe was at Owasso because everybody went to Owasso, right? Owasso was big, beautiful.
Let's get the chalkboard out. Teach us what's happening.
So, when Owasso was all shiny and everything, everyone went to Owasso because they just had all the money in the world to throw at things. And so they could do that, right? They made their own Outlaw series. They made their own this, their own that. They probably made their own beer at some point too. But Now there's some pulling away, and that's nothing against Wausau, right? They do a lot of incredible things. So this is not a knock on them. It's just they got everything.
Right.
There's only so many dates that you can do stuff, right? So
that's another track I got to go to. So
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I've not been to Wausau, but you know, we've gotten mad on here. You know, people get so mad out of Wausau over things. It's like the track could be closed. Rex Wheeler put in millions of dollars that he'll never
tons
make
of money.
back.
Yeah,
Tons of money. He'll never make it back. And so you're going to criticize that guy. The track could be closed. So you should be grateful for what you have. But anyways, you get big shiny things. It's like a head coach. You know, you go coach at Michigan, but you can go make $5 million more at Alabama and get a bigger house at Alabama. You're going to go to Alabama, right? You're just chasing money to get bigger and better things. So Wausau's bigger, better things, but then people want more. Well, you're not going to get more, and you can't compare Wausau to everyone else. But anyways, so the hot shoe was out of Wausau for the last couple of years. It said Springport before that. So it's coming to Kalamazoo for the first time. To my understanding, it's first time. And that's modified, and then they'll have street stocks as a support class. So unfortunately, they're going head-to-head with Flagger Boy. So I already know a lot of Kalamazoo cars that I know Buju. I said the same face. But so a lot of your Kalamazoo cars will be going Flagger Boy. That I already know that. I already know the names who are going to Flagger Boy. They're not going to do Hot Shoe. But Hot Shoe is about the modifieds with an extra class. And so they're going to have modifieds. They're 55 right now. But a modified country is Springport, Owasso, a little bit of Corrigan. Like you get Central Michigan. That's where a lot of them are. And that's where it's kind of funny because you come down this way, it's street stock racing. You know, you go to whether that is, you know, Russell's, whether that is Kalamazoo, you know, whether it is New Paris, wherever, right? Like you get a lot down here, strong street stock racing, where Central Michigan, the street stock racing, I wouldn't consider very strong. Corrigan had cut them because there was no street stocks. Springport would average 8 to 10 street stocks. Bigger shows, they bring in outsiders, you know, so then you'd have like Michigan Cup will have C features for street stocks, but on a normal night, you know, comfortably in the A feature. And but modifieds, you would get those modifieds on that track. It's an experience. It is the only similar experience that I can compare to Springport modifieds is Lorain, Ohio, is watching them come off the backstretch at Lorain. And I think if M40 ever did modifieds, I think that would be a close.
A good show.
I know they've talked about modifieds at times, but I think, you know, and they do well at Kalamazoo too. But if I were to compare modified racing to, you know, Springport and Kalamazoo, I would rather watch modifieds at Springport, where I would rather watch street stocks at Kalamazoo, right? Like class by class, you know, you kind of go, which would I rather watch at? That doesn't mean I don't love them at Kalamazoo like, it just means if I had the preference and I had to pick a coin side, that's the way that I would lean. But that's where a lot of your modifieds are. That's modified country up there. So Wausau gets 30 some cars, you know, even for a normal paying night. This Friday, this is one of the events that we borrowed from New Paris. So New Paris has the V8 Classic, the V8 Special. So this Friday, they're doing a V8 Classic, V8 Special. So I know modifieds. I was trying to get Matthew Elsie Jr. on here, but he's doing an iRacing thing, but he's racing a modified. But we have modifieds, late models, I think street stocks. Tina can correct me, but I know she was commenting at the same time. That's where I was also going. But we'll have a lot, because this is a hot shoe kind of. This is the last chance for modified drivers to get on the track and practice. And we had an awesome A feature a few weeks ago. I mean, that's probably the best modified race that I have seen at Kalamazoo was a few weeks ago. And but man, you watch them at Springport, just with the banking and everything, and it's wide open, and you're in the middle of 70 acres, and there's just cows and goats and chickens around you. I mean, there's nothing around you at Springport. It's literally just farm field. Fun. So but I know we were talking about Super Shoe in the Michigan Cup, but then you brought up modifieds. But that's modified country is Central Michigan, and probably Angola. Angola had what, 40 some a few weeks. Yeah, I know they go down that way, but I don't
know if they dip into Ohio and stuff out that way or not. But yeah, the modifieds do miss our area a lot of the times, it seems, Taylor, unfortunately.
Kind of up and around. Although New Paris does a pretty nice job with modifieds. We've gotten a couple of drivers to come out. But yeah, 55 modifieds so far on the list over for hot shoe, which is
crazy.
again, it's unfortunate that they're going head to head with Flagger Boy, because that's going to split a lot of people. And I was not a big fan when I heard Street Stocks would be racing, but Donnie had a fair point, as did Drew Jack. Like, but it might give someone who doesn't usually win on a Friday night or whatever in a street stock, a chance, because a lot of the heavy hitters, I get it, Buju, but I was explaining like that's Flagger Boy, but in fairness, the people who run Hot Shoe wouldn't probably even know of Flagger Boy. So, they're not connected in that way. So, but I'm like, of all things, Flagger Boy, but yeah. So if you're not doing anything that weekend, modify Tech Kalamazoo Hot Shoe.
Before we let you go, Taylor, it seems like we have to talk about bowling. Seems like bowling's a pretty big part of your life. Oh, yeah. So you mentioned that being you're almost as passionate about that as you are short track racing. So what does bowling mean to you, Taylor?
So bowling's a lot. Not too many people know this. In high school, I was an Indiana All-Star. I have a sportsmanship award from high school bowling, and then going into college, I was an All-American in 2021. What else? I've lost track of how many 300s I've had. I couldn't get them in high school. I had one, and then I go to college, and then I just start lighting them up, which is great. But I'm assuming that's where I did a lot of my maturing. But bowling is a big part of my life. Bowling has allowed me to see 26 states. So I've traveled to 26 different states, mainly on the East Coast, a couple on the West Coast. I've gone, majority of the states that I've been to have been east of the Mississippi. I have traveled west of the Mississippi, like Missouri, Iowa, Nevada. Actually, just in 2020, April of 2025, me and my college team qualified for ITC Nationals, which is called the Intercollegiate Team Championship. And we went to Las Vegas and bowled in a stadium. That was awesome. Cool. What's another one? Bowling is just a big part of my life. When I'm not at a racetrack, I'm at a bowling center. If I'm not at neither, don't bother me because I'm sleeping at home. So, but yeah, bowling is a big part of my life. I actually, just 2 weeks ago, I was at something called Bowl Expo in Nashville, Tennessee. And I went there with the business that I work for of Olympia Lanes. They own 2 bowling centers, one in Hammond, one in Michigan City. I run the pro shop in Michigan City as well, doing some other things. So my boss was able to take a lot of his higher ups and some of their spouses, and we went to Nashville and had a great experience. Got to go to Buc-ee's for the first time. That was awesome. I got this nice little button up. I'm gonna wear it to the track one day, but that's a different story. Had the chance to go there and see some of the greats in the bowling industry, like EJ Tackett, who's arguably been one of the hottest players in the world these last couple of years. Got to see him, Sean Rash, Parker Bone III, a whole bunch of big bowling names, and just got to make friendships. And I sat in on some pro shop seminars so that I can be a better pro shop operator. But bowling has taken me places I never thought I would go. Before I graduated high school, I've only been to 4 states: Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. And then after I go into college and then go to school for 5 years, because I had a COVID year, so I got 1 year of eligibility back. So I furthered my education at Calumet College. It has taken me all over. Oh my Lord, has it taken me all over. I mean, every state I've gone to, I never had a suitcase packed for vacation. I had my bowling balls and I was competing at the collegiate level. So yeah, so one thing not too many people know about me is bowling is a big part of my life, just like racing. And it has taken me just as far as racing has and given me just as much memories as well.
Have you snuck into a bowling alley?
No. I will say one thing. There is a tournament in Indianapolis called the Hoosier. and it's the biggest Tier 1 collegiate tournament in America. It's one of the last tournaments before postseason, and there's a lot of stuff on the line. Your big schools are going to be there. So like Calumet, I always refer to as like the Notre Dame of collegiate bowling. We can always get to the big show, and then we kind of shit the bed. But I'm a big Notre Dame fan too.
Okay.
But,
And all right, I'll let it go.
sorry. But no, it's college. Hoosier is always a lot of fun. And one time when we were going, I lost my ID badge. So there's an athletic entrance where all the bowlers and coaches come in. And then there's the main entrance where your parents, your spectators, that's where they go buy a ticket if they haven't bought one previously online. Well, I forgot my badge back at the hotel. A couple of my teammates go in, set their stuff down, grab another badge, come out back to the van, gave me their badge. I come back in. Now, granted, I didn't sneak in. I was on the roster, but I kind of goofed.
It happens, but there's actually, I don't think a lot of people understand too. Like you talk about bowling your passion. There's a lot of people in the racing world who are also bowlers. Like I think
there's a lot of crossover. Yeah,
Jared, you know, he's a limited late model racer and a template late model racer at Kalamazoo. He does bowling. He went to Reno a few weeks ago. One of the modified drivers, Cody Hall, he does. He's been a flagman at Springport before, but races and modifieds, help with all that. He's a collegiate bowler, and has
really.
So there's a lot of crossover with bowling and racing that I've noticed. There's quite a few people who I know are some parents coach bowling, right? And so so it's one of those that there's quite a few people who get into the bowling. And I used to be a bowler way back when we lived in Chicago. They had leagues all over, and I was pretty good back then. But then it's kind of like once you get out of it,
yeah,
that's for a really, really long time.
I was the same way. We played in leagues when I was a kid, and I was pretty decent then. But I'm the worst bowler on the planet.
Yeah, I don't have the skills that I did when I was little, but that's something in Chicago. There was so many opportunities for bowling leagues and all that wherever you went, and so as you move other places, some of those same opportunities don't exist, right? Or you got to go a little bit further for them. But
yeah, I literally right around the corner from me is where I grew up, bowling Beacon Bowl, and that's been gone. For
that's gone
years now. Yeah,
that was the Chippewa Home Center. You know, when Ron Varash talks about his racing history, I kind of do the same thing with
bowling. I'm into it, dude.
Like, you guys got a moment? I could tell you one quick story. All right. So, did you know back during the Prohibition, bowling was never 10 pins, and the triangle that you see them now as how the pins are set up, it was originally called 9-pin bowling. So back in the Prohibition, these guys would get their checks from Union, steel mills, whatever. They go to the bar and they gamble their whole check bowling. Well, they ended up making bowling illegal because it was a form of gambling. So to get around that, they added the 10th pin and made it into the triangular format that you see today. That's why technically there's many different forms of bowling: candle pin bowling, duck pin bowling. If you look up the correct term for my bowling, it's called 10-pin bowling. And that's the reason why we call it 10-pin bowling. So just a little quick story there.
I appreciate that. That was cool. That's the stuff I like right there.
I did not know that.
There you go.
And I like Prohibition stuff like that. I'm a history nerd. I know Bougier's a history nerd. So, in fact, when I usually when I get off here, I go binge watch the Tom Hanks World War II stuff.
I still gotta watch that.
On. And it's on Hulu. You know, I have it recorded and all that. But you know, I like watching that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm watching History Channel things all the time, but they don't have things like that for bowling, or I haven't found it yet, you know, but they do have like sports kind of things like,
there's the P. Weber documentary. You can watch that.
That's a lot of fun.
But yeah, so that's pretty cool. See how 10-pin came in, and that's where if you come to Super Shoe, you'll have to try our bowling.
Yeah, there you go.
You take a bowling ball and you see if you can get it around the track, the furthest. You roll it. And I had, so one of my bowling videos, I didn't get any last year because I was in the sling. I fell really hard on the track, and not because I was drunk or anything, but because I was trying to save a GoPro camera. No, I wish I had a damn good I fell in front of all the front wheel drives. It couldn't be the Crown Vics where there was only like 10 of them. It had to be the 200 freaking front wheel drives that ready to practice that I fell in front of, including all the people who come with front wheel drives.
Oh, Jesus.
All of them, right on the front stretch, right there, splat on the front stretch. I was bloody all over. Freddy Krueger would have been super jealous. I ended up in a sling at some point because, the adrenaline rush that, like, I got up, get off this ground, GoPros are okay. Okay, go put, I had 15 minutes to mount them on the wall around the track, and I tried to be a superhero on my scooter, and I super bit it. And which Andy Bozell told me I'd be fine, and everybody follows and all the things. So I learned one of those many lessons from Andy Bozell. But that's where, but we have bowling, so I didn't get any pictures or videos last year. But the year before, when we first did it, Kenny had brought it to Super Shoe. It had like 5 million views. Dylan Stovall throwing a bowling ball. It went almost all the way around to our backstretch, like the second big sign on our backstretch. And he, last year I sponsored it. It was Top Roll Bowling, and that they also put me in charge of it, which I'm like, okay, I can't pick up bowling balls now. I can't do any of that. So luckily I had help. People did feel slightly sorry for me. And then also like, what'd you do? Where do you want me to start? But anyways, roll a ball that had over 5 million views on Facebook. And Europe was the #1 country. I sent that.
They're probably thinking, look at these Americans.
Yeah. The European mind can't comprehend.
So the new Paris fire truck is super popular in Canada, Nova Scotia, Canada, and British Columbia, Canada. There's only 2 videos on my page that have had a country, not a state, a country that was the #1 region. Facebook calls it regions. Was #1 Europe for bowling at Super Shoe, and the new Paris fire truck in Canada for whatever reason. But it's a bunch of Canadian firefighters fighting over foam and why were we putting Dawn dish soap in a fire truck and all these things. And I'm like, okay, they're literally fighting over Dawn dish soap, but whatever. I wasn't going to stop them. It went to like 7 different firefighter groups. I'm like, really? Like, I would have never thought. I would have thought, school of bus, Race of Doom school bus with pyro coming off of it would go like all over the place. Nope, fire truck and bowling. But yeah, so you'll have to try Super Shoe if they do it again this year, which they probably will. Super Shoe bowling. So last year, Sage Hannah's boyfriend ended up
winning. Kelly.
Yep. He ended up winning it, and there's 2 of them who are going back and forth. But in fairness, because they put me in charge of the Super Shoe bowling, but they didn't really give me help. So Cody Geyer ended up helping chase balls around the corner, and then Sage's boyfriend was doing the same thing. But then he didn't get to bowl, and he's a bowler, and he knows what he's doing. So
him and I grew up bowling youth league together in Elkhart County, so I know Kane.
So I convinced everyone else who got a chance to bowl. I said, in fairness, he hasn't had a chance to. And then it was back and forth for like 10, 15 minutes. And they were really good sports about it because, again, it's about fun. I mean, again, at Super Shoe, you go for the party and the stories and all the things. And then there's racing that just so happens to be a part of the weekend. But it's those kind of things that were pretty fun about it. So you'll have to, if you get up to Super Shoe this year, that's usually that'll be on Friday night after all the heat races. Or no, it's that Saturday night after all the heat races. You'll have to try the Super Shoe bowling because that'll be fun. It was like $3 a ball, I think it was, or $2 a ball. I don't remember.
Real quick to connect racing and bowling, since you brought up Kane, I don't know if you knew this, but he has a twin sister. Their dad is a big Casey Kane fan, and his sister's name is Casey. So
get out of here.
Casey and Kane, yeah.
I didn't know
it's pretty
that.
Awesome, yeah. So yeah, see, like I said, I grew up bowling with them too, and at Country Club, and so yeah, in Elkhart. So yeah, it's a little fun little insight actually.
Well, Kane got to race not this past weekend, but the weekend before. Kane got out in his car and everything and got to race at New Paris. So that was pretty fun for him to do because he hasn't been in the car in a while, before that. So and the last time he was in the car, he kind of got beat up a little bit. So he was a little worried about getting in the car and everything, but he held his own and did all that. So, but otherwise, I mean, he's at New Paris, anywhere the Hannahs are, he's generally
right.
So, but yeah, he got to race. So he not only got to work, but he got to race too. So, But yeah, so that was fun because I talked to him before. He said, "So what do you think?" And then afterwards, "What do you think?" Oh, that's more reason to get back in the car more often. So, and you're already paying for a pit pass, so bring a car with. Same price, literally same price.
Yeah, you get some money back at the end of the night.
Yeah,
Really.
you
Bring a
pay
race
30
car.
Yeah.
Just don't break anything.
There's
Yeah.
fuel, tires, all these things. There's a driver
I know, Lewis.
yesterday at Springport, or not Springport, at Slinger was telling me, I won't say the driver, but they were telling me the tires, $1,200 for their tires. I fell over. I'm like, wait, what? So I'm like, oh, that's a lot. So especially for an Outlaw front wheel drive, basically that's what they are, because that was an Outlaw front wheel drive.
Outlaw compact, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that was 1,200. I went, oh. I'm in the wrong business. But yeah, so anyways, I know we kept you a little bit past, but I know we started late. So for everyone joining, just to remind, I know you see Taylor's on the screen, but if you missed our earlier conversation, once we got through all the technical difficulties and everything, we did have Wayne Bunn from Hartford Speedway. So once we're done on the live, you can certainly go back. I do have to catch up on Spotify. Actually, Dalton Irish, I was talking with him yesterday. And then we've been talking with Taylor Haines from M40 Speedway, but I was talking with Dalton yesterday at if I say Springport, I mean Slinger. At Slinger, and, now I have two S's in my head, right? But at Slinger, and he's one of our Spotify listeners, and so he was telling me, when he listens to it and everything, and so I was telling Boujou, I said, I don't know if I'm going to do the Thursday one, just because by the time people watch a Thursday one, it might be outdated, and because it's events for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we do also have conversation on there too that we'll talk about different things. So I said, I'll go back and I'll upload all those, because that was one thing I thought, well, it doesn't make sense to put the Thursday one on Spotify. But then in talking with him, I'm like, I never put the Monday up there from last week. So I'm like, sorry, Taylor, sorry, New Paris. We don't have tons of Spotify users right now, but I found a chart, a podcast chart that has like top motorsports podcasts. And we're kind of going up the chart here a little.
There we go.
So if you listen on Spotify or anything, which is free to listen to on Spotify, even I think a Spotify account is free to make. If you give us like great reviews and all that, or the show, we can continue kind of moving up the chart there. So the one that I looked at, and I only came across it because of another podcast that I follow, mentioned it, that they're on it, and so is Women's Motorsports Network. We had Melinda Russell on. She's comfortably in the top 70. I think she's like 75 or whatever. She's top 100. So I looked at our numbers and we're moving up. So I'm like,
nice.
Let's keep this going. So if you watch on Spotify, definitely, give good reviews and all that, because that'll just keep moving us up the chart. So, and you don't have to have
on Spotify, you can hit the follow button as well too, so you get notified when the new episodes are posted.
Yes. So
as soon as we get done here, boom, I'm gonna do that.
Yep, and I'll be uploading this one probably right away, just so I don't forget about it. Although the New Paris Enduro is already up, that was 451 laps, but a few red flags. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be pretty easy to get through. So, so people can go watch that now. That's all up. All 3.5 hours, I think, is total video time. But or no, that doesn't sound right. 3 something. But there was 8 minutes of interview, like a few minutes of driver introductions. They did driver introductions. So when you put the whole thing together, it's longer than a 3-hour race. But plus my entrance is a minute. So, it adds up and all that. But again, Taylor, thank you so much for joining us, especially, on a Monday, and you're Central Time. So you get to live a time that we've already lived. So with that, before I forget, while you're on here, you get to be part of all the show running, because at the start of the show, Boujou, we also forgot to remind everyone to throttle up with us on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Again, the technical difficulties were throwing me off because I was trying to manage the podcast and also get Wayne connected with us. But so you can throttle up with us this Thursday, where we'll preview the upcoming weekend. Rain doesn't seem to be a big factor this weekend, so we'll actually have shows to talk about. And obviously the V8 special, but then I know there's just a lot of different events going on all over. It's autograph night at a lot of places. So
yes, sir. New Paris, that's where I'll be Saturday.
Yep. So you throttle up with us. And then, of course, you've been listening to the Monday Night Rewind presented by the National Compact Touring Series, Federated Auto Parts, and ELH Detailing. And with us, we've had Taylor Haines from M40 Speedway talking with us. And then, like I said, Wayne Bunn, you can go back once we're off live to to watch if you miss his phone-in interview, our first phone-in interview. We figured out it'll work too. So other than that, Bougie, were there any other questions that you had for Taylor that we missed out on?
No, sir. I haven't. The chat all night's been Taylor's demand. We love Taylor. Taylor gets it done. So I wanted to make sure you get your flowers from the chat here, Taylor. I enjoyed this conversation quite a bit. I realized we've talked at the racetrack for 5-6 years, whatever it is, and I don't know a lot about you. So I enjoyed tonight. It was really good. You're a great guest. So thanks for coming on, Taylor. That's all I got.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I loved it, and this is so far like a great highlight in my life when it connects to racing. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. Well, yeah,
You're welcome.
definitely let all your family know, because I don't know if they shared it out when I posted, but I know when I did your short track spotlight, I'm like, who's all sharing this? And so, you know, I saw a lot of names that I don't see often, right? But definitely let everyone know you're on so they can go back and watch it. And if they don't have Facebook, they can get it on YouTube. And if they don't want to go to YouTube, like I said, I'll probably be putting it on Spotify tonight just so I don't forget, because sometimes I just forget. Like last week, though, was super busy. That's the most laps that until New Paris's Enduro that I'd ever edited. I mean, New Paris's Enduro was the equivalent to 3 race programs last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went full Hartford night, full Kalamazoo night, full New Paris night, plus the Night of Destruction. The Enduro from Saturday trumped all that. So I went, that was the most in one weekend. And New Paris said, hold my Amish fried chicken. Well, up yeah. And so they cleared the house on Saturday. But again, incredible Enduro for those who missed it. Obviously, the Day of Reckonings, where you'll get to see Taylor if you haven't done those yet. And there's a lot of people who haven't yet. Numbers went up last, so let's keep getting those numbers up. The Russells are being super creative there, doing their own thing, which is what's so fun, is that they're not trying to be like other tracks. They're
Factory 4 double features were awesome on Saturday. I wanted to add that too.
Oh, yeah.
Those were fun.
Yeah.
On that Factory Ford group there, again, I think, you know, we have, who do we have on that? We were talking about the Factory Fords, but you know, they've come around, and that's something. Hartford had the bar. You know, Hartford had the most out of everybody. They figured it out. Where all the other tracks were struggling to get them, and there's just weren't a bunch. I mean, people were trying to buy them, you couldn't find them, couldn't build them, couldn't do all that. You know, but then we started with the Top Road Triple Crown on April 11th at Russell's, and that was the most at that time. And then I think it was 2 weeks later on season opening, we crushed that record, and then have held all season. So again, that always tells me you're doing something right if you're holding. And they keep coming back. But, you know, it's also the advantage. There's only 2 tracks that are doing them weekly. And so there's not a lot of places to go. But literally, like Hartford's on its stretch where it has a couple nights off because of fairs. They don't go head-to-head with fairs or anything. That if you race a Crown Vic at M40 and you want to, like Ronnie Holloway has done this. He went to Dirt last year to try it. Like, take your Crown Vic and go over to Hartford on a Friday night. Or if you race at Hartford and you don't have anywhere to go for a couple weeks, do a few things if you can, fit the rules to go to M40 and give M40 a shot. And, you know, then the car doesn't have to sit in the garage for a couple weeks. And I know there's some Michigan tracks, dirt tracks that do run Crown Vics, but for a lot of them, M40 would be the closest rather than driving a couple hours away, drive 50 minutes away. So again, I know seeing that and seeing the car counts at M40 has been pretty cool too, because as we've said on this show, as I've done in the short track spotlights, it was literally a track with the Grim Reaper just standing right there, getting ready to, you know, abracadabra, you know, blow the house down. And, you know, July 23rd, I think was the date, something like that. 2023, they've been able to, or 2020, yeah, it's 2023. You know, they've been able to change all the fortunes around. So, again, I always tell people, because I know everyone's sandbox is a little different, like, you might not like how the sandbox all the time, but at least it's a track that's open. And if anything, we can all embrace that. At least it's a track that's open. But I know, who was it the other day that stirred up some controversy because they had a picture of South Bend as a dirt track?
Oh, don't get me started on that. Don't get me fired up on that, Lewis.
Yeah, I think it's Nick Stremme who shared it, and it was a track page. But then someone said, what other track would you think in M40? And I'm going to tell you, when M40 was for sale, obviously I don't have the money to buy it, so I can't do it. But I made a post, and it got people so furious with me. But I'm like, I think M40 would be a really, really, really good dirt track. Just And I'm like, just picture the Outlaw sprint cars on it. You know, just that's all you need to do. Just picture that and dirt late models slinging dirt around there. Booze, you get over yourself. You get cheap plugging on my page. Remember that. Get over yourself.
You know, I will say one thing about M40 is that track is very unique. And I feel like that's really the equalizer for a lot of the racing.
Yep.
I mean, it comes back to who's the best pilot at that point. I mean, setups can only help you so far.
Yep.
You still got to drive the thing.
Especially
So,
turn 3.
yeah.
Especially turn 3. Like you can tell
God, yeah.
Watching the Ohio Wheelman there, I was telling their photographer and everything, I said, we'll figure out really quick who's raced here and who hasn't. Hot lap.
That bump is... you even see it even like with the Crown Vics when they decide to go 3 wide and they can hold 3 wide for like 2 laps.
Yeah.
Good Lord, when they hit the little bump, it's amazing what that little bit can do to the car's setup. It's just surprising.
Yeah. Speaking of setup, Bougie, what do you think about a dirt track in South Bend?
Hey, teach their own.
You have material for your next episode on Sundays. There you go.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, that's a good point.
But,
he's writing a note.
Let's ask that though. Like, is there
my forehead vein popping out yet? Yep, it sure is.
Well, do you remember when Berlin did it? So way back, Berlin used to put dirt on Berlin for like a race. They raced World of Outlaws there. If I remember, it's World of Outlaws.
Know that.
Yeah, they put dirt on the Berlin. And so that kind of got people thinking, because that was well before Bristol put dirt on. But that might have been when Bristol did dirt the first time, because that was kind of like
been early 2000s.
Around that time. But, you know, it's one of those that, you know, people talk about there's so many asphalt tracks in the area, and Hartford and Butler kind of live in the dirt land. There's just not enough dirt. So when you look at the car counts, why would I build a dirt car?
I hear you. I hear what you're saying about dirt tracks. I get I'm not bashing dirt tracks. I just think the asphalt tracks are asphalt tracks for a reason. So maybe
remember,
I'm trying to turn them into dirt.
Used to be dirt.
Yeah, man.
They put asphalt on top of the dirt.
Yeah, in the 1950s.
But some of the back to our roots, like Montville started as a dirt track, New Paris started as a dirt track, Kalamazoo started as a dirt track. I think Galesburg started as a dirt track, but I could be wrong on Galesburg.
Oh yeah, most of them did start as dirt tracks.
So
yeah. And then they paved them because it's better.
Oh Lord. This is great.
Right? You know, I don't know though. Like you have to give it some thought. If you watch the World of Outlaws at M40 on a dirt track, you have to admit that in a different time, like Back to the Future, like go Back to the Future and change course of history, that would be a fun dirt track.
All right, sure, I'll give you M40. Leave the other one alone.
But okay, let's ask this. Just because we're on the topic, and since you both have roots to South Bend, if it kept it alive,
I don't think you'd have to widen the bottom so much, and the top would be so dominant it wouldn't work.
I was going to say
you'd have to widen the bottom. It would be a 5th mile, if that. I don't think it would work.
You know, there was a race.
Have you been in Plymouth dirt track in Wisconsin? 5th mile there. That they get good.
I get it. Sure.
You know, going with what Buja was saying, you know, I'm by all means, I'm not opposed to dirt. Dirt's fun to watch. You know, USAC. I just watched the Flow Racing had a race rewind where they were doing the Ohio Speed Week. That was just like a month ago or something like that. And I was like, wow, these sprint cars are amazing. You know, when I see a car go sideways, there's a yellow flag usually. So to see them kick it sideways and just maintain it, it was just amazing to watch. Like all forms of racing are fun to watch. But I agree with Buju. If South Bend went dirt, hypothetically, they'd have to do a lot of work because it's narrow.
And also, good luck selling the neighbors and the auction lot across the street on that too.
Oh, they would be mad. You know, there was a race at South Bend in 2019, I do believe. It was the final running of the Jim Blunt Memorial. Had a whole bunch of super late models there. Tyler Rorick, one of the cleanest racers you'll ever meet. That was when he had the white paint scheme. It was the first season I think he did the white with the red numbering. That he won the victory. He won the race, and then pulled off the track, and I guarantee you both sides of the tire of his body, I mean, had tire marks all over it. And it never really put into perspective how tight South Bend is. And even working the gate and getting a perfect view of the backstretch, I never really paid attention until you see them go side by side going into 3. And it's like, like, oh, Lord.
It's a perfect little racetrack, and I love it the way it is.
Exactly. Rubbin's racetrack.
It's hypothetical.
I hear you.
Right,
I hear you.
Right.
But, hey. I got hypothetically. I had my hypothetical response to the hypothetical situation.
If someone buys it for $2 million or whatever it is.
Listen, I don't got money to buy it, so I don't have any decision. I don't have any say in the matter. Do what you want, I guess, but I'll have my opinion.
It could be.
It would be unique to see, though.
Sure.
So data center or dirt track.
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. But
you always have to compare to the most. Whatever the social media determines is the most evil thing of that day. Obviously, data centers are the most evil thing right now. But in a few weeks, it'll be something else. Dollar Generals were it for a while, but
flock cameras are moving up the list.
Oh, they are. That would be a big surveillance area if they did that, right?
Yeah.
But, although it is along the highway there, but yeah, no. So I saw that picture and I'm like, I agree with you, Buju. I'm just busting your balls here a little bit.
I know. But I mean, you saw, yeah, it worked.
No, it did. I'm kind of proud of myself, but that's where I agree. I don't think South Bend would be an ideal dirt track. You'd have to do quite a bit of different things with it. Doesn't make it impossible. Again, Plymouth, Wisconsin. I thought the same thing going there when my brother introduced me. If you've never been there. Sheboygan County Fairgrounds, they have tailgating all the way around it, basically, because the track was put in after the homes. The track was 2005, and so all the homes have balconies, and you can smell the brats on the grill, you can smell all the things, and they embrace the track like they're neighbors, and they're out there watching the track from their porches. And it's the only dirt track that I'll eat food at because I know my food won't have dirt in it. They have covered, like any fairground, it's covered grandstands, and those grandstands are damn clean. Like you'd think you're at a dirt track, spotless, not dirt anywhere. I didn't leave with dirt on me. It was really nice. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I went to a dirt track and I'm leaving like I wasn't at a dirt track, but yeah, that's a 5th mile. And I thought the same thing. They had 23 or 24 sprint cars, 410s start their feature. And I looked at my brother and I said, this is going to be wild. Nope. Just packing all over, tight little bowl ring. So if you've never been there, I would highly recommend just for the environment. Even if you don't like the racing, I think you'll like the racing. But even if you don't like the racing, just the environment, seeing a neighborhood embrace its track, be a part of the track, celebrate the track, embrace it. Definitely go check it out just for that.
Yeah, one of my goals is, even though I'm a big asphalt guy, I got to get to Eldora. I have to go. I hear that is just unworldly on how popular that is. So I got to get there too.
I named my dog after it, Taylor. It's that good.
Yep.
All right. There was actually just a little documentary. I watch a lot of flow racing when I'm home. There was a documentary on there on the history of flow racing. I mean, not flow racing, of Eldora, and that was pretty cool too. So it's just, I gotta go. I gotta get out more.
Well, it's almost time to turn left, right? So because this is our favorite part of because I see it's almost 9:30, so I'm like, definitely time to get.
It's 8:30 my time, so.
Don't brag, but yeah, Eldora, that's one that I do want to get to too. But I thought that was interesting. So I don't know how because we were just talking about dirt in general, but before Buju has like emotional breakdown and has to go on one of his big Dave LaGreca style rants on his new podcast that he has on Sundays, we'll save him the trouble so he doesn't have to curl up in a ball and be like, it won't happen. It won't happen. It can't happen. We'll take the emotional trauma of even the thought of it.
That's right. But Dirt South Bend isn't real. It can't hurt you.
He's going to have a nightmare about it. And he's going to wake up screaming. It is not effing
Yeah.
dirt track. But and he won't know why. He'll just wake up yelling it and protesting. But anyways, it's almost time to turn left, Buju, and go fast. Again, Taylor, thank you so much for joining us tonight, because
We'll see you at the races.
and Taylor,
We
have
will.
fun. We'll see everybody
Thank
at
you.